Live from Mortgage One Studios. Russ Clark with you, and Dean Weingard's here. Morning, sir.
Yeah, glad to be here too on a Wednesday.
It is Wednesday. That's right. It's hump day. I had a problem with this setting on the my machine here, where I didn't pick up the calls very well the other day. In fact, I could hear them. We could hear them in studio, but it wasn't really doing well broadcasting. But I figured out mistakes I made.
Oh, good.
I don't know how it worked, but it did. It did. Well, good morning, Dean.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. Although you've been here about an hour.
Well, I like to come in early. It's an old habit.
Now your mic sounds hollow. Get a little closer if you could. I don't know.
Okay. That still sounds a little odd to me.
Oh, I know why. Try it now.
Yeah. Oh, that's much better.
Yeah, wrong one was on.
that could make a difference.
Just as I mentioned, there's some technical problems. I continue on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked very little about the Strait of Hormuz and Iranian war this morning, which is good because
it appears like there's some ongoing struggle inside the regime in Iran right now.
Oh gosh, I think that's.
We just don't know who's in charge.
I think that's huge. And that's one of the points a lot of the smart guys are making is, we say, well, Trump says this and this guy says that, and who's right and who's wrong? Well, they're both right. We're getting signals from diplomats and then also
IRGC
from the military, all that stuff.
And one IRGC says, yes, you're cleared to go to a boat. And the next one says, fire on that ship.
Right.
And the ship says, what?
But somehow through it all, Trump seems very confident that he's on the right path to continue to attempt these negotiations, but didn't happen, by the way.
Right.
They didn't happen.
No, I think Trump is correct. And
do you?
I mean, you see it, you look at the countervailing positions. Trump's position is we have overwhelming force and we can destroy anything in Iran we want to. So you've got to give up. And the Iranian position is, but we have our allies in the U.S. media that can stop you, Trump.
They don't verbalize that, but I think you're right. They recognize that Trump is under political pressure.
Well,
and they think they can outlast.
That's their card. Is that political pressure they believe that people who favor them can put on Trump. Well,
and Trump sees something else, and I don't. His intelligence, and we talked about this. He's getting intelligence from multiple sources.
He has probably the best intelligence sources in the world.
Better than the United Kingdom.
Yes,
because they
have pretty good, but the U.S. intelligence sources, both technical and human, are pretty good. Our technical has been really fantastic, and then we have also access to Israeli intelligence, probably some of the best human intelligence in the world.
All right. I was listening to a commentator this morning and it said, that points this issue out, and he said something like the diplomats who see things how they are and want to survive and all that realize they're in a no-win situation, and they're the ones that said, okay, we'll close the straits. I mean, we'll open the straits. We'll give you. We'll do some negotiations, but eventually the military side took over,
right? Because
they're in a lose-lose. Because in the military side of the situation, if they lose, if they get killed by the U.S., they lose. If they agree with the U.S., then the Iranian people will kill them.
Well, or their own comrades will, because in the IRGC, they've been told for decades, you want to be a martyr, and if they're not hardline enough, somebody else takes them out.
They know what the Iranian people are going to do to them, or their own comrades are going to do to them. They're not, but
they're not popular generally with the populace.
No.
So if there's a popular revolution,
they have the guns.
Well, right. So it's not, to me, completely clear cut. But I think yes, they're worried if they lose, if there's a change in the power structure such that a more popular leadership takes over, they could face Nuremberg type trials.
Correct.
And they lose then. So
or the majority of the Iranian people, from many that I've talked to that have inside or I've listened to on air, overwhelmingly don't like these guys.
I think so.
But they can't do anything about it.
I don't think they're popular, but they have a fraction of the population that support them. How much is hard to say. I've seen, the Tusi TV, which I find very informative, and I think they do a pretty good job, has claimed that it's about 5%, which would be about 4 or 5 million people.
Yeah, but 5% with all the guns and power can.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
especially when you go out to the populace
Look
and
at
kill
North-
hundreds of people.
Look at North Korea. If you're ruthless,
Yeah.
you can control a population with sheer brute force and terror.
Right. Yeah.
And now one thing I have been thinking about on what I would require if I were President Trump. I might say, well, as part of these negotiations, you have to allow free Starlink access.
But there are no negotiations.
There's sort of pseudo ideas about negotiations.
Well, the current military doesn't want to hear it because
they're in a very difficult spot.
Right. Because they'll get killed by their own kind. They'll get killed by the
us,
population or killed by us.
Where do they flee to? Russia doesn't seem to be real helpful at the moment.
They've not made a good bid for themselves.
Yeah, and probably the lower level ones probably don't have Swiss bank accounts or
But they've lived a good high life for 47 years of ruthlessness.
Well, at the very top they have.
Yeah, at the very top. I mean, yeah.
I mean, when you get down below the second or maybe third tier, they're living pretty well, but it's not like they've got millions stashed in the bank somewhere.
Aren't the second and third tier in charge now?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we don't really. I don't think anybody knows precisely who is in charge, and it comes back down to a definition of what do you mean by in charge. But I think the regime and the power structure is pretty well fractured, and nobody really knows.
Something that we always assumed, or at least it was visibly to us that would watch in Iran over the last 47 years, the Ayatollah seemed to be in charge of everything. The religious side,
yes,
seemed to be in charge.
I would say so, but they created these, the military faction that. Let's see, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps has gotten the best amount of money and weaponry and training to the detriment of the regular Iranian army. And it's sort of like I don't like to use Hitler or Nazi,
like
but they had a similar,
yeah.
They also had a similar structure in the Soviet Union, where the regular army had more people, but they had these elite corps that were used to control and enforce everything.
And those were the ruthless ones.
Yeah, very.
Well, it was suggested the other day that the reason the talks were even going to happen was that the current Ayatollah, which we haven't seen, we've only heard, we actually hear messages from, agreed to the thing.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's been a lot of question about what his physical condition is,
whether he's alive, but anyway, his office or wherever that information comes from,
somebody's putting out messages.
He agreed to it, and the military overruled it.
Yeah,
and that's kind of new for the last 47
sort of,
years.
Some people consider it an ongoing coup, that the military is saying we're in charge and nobody else is.
Well,
and that's probably very possible. And,
I think everything's possible.
Well, right. And I see some evidence of, sort of a or an insurgency going on, at least around the fringes of Iraq, around the borders.
Well, according to Tuesday, there's been a lot of cities that were taken over. At least they got rid of the police, and
but it's a dicey situation. The police may lose control for a while. They may reassert it. I would not consider it a fun place to be at present.
No,
because you never know who's in charge of what.
You kind of want to stay in your basement at this point.
Well, most people are probably staying at
home.
Like
Tusi says, and you watch him, he says, look, you need to fight back. You can't win through diplomacy in these guys. You got to fight back.
And I think all that's there. I give President Trump a lot of credit because I think he's trying to gain complete victory with the least amount of bloodshed.
The ceasefire is technically over. It looks like he's wanting to extend it. And
then we had the IRGC say, no, we're not accepting that.
Right, I know. Because
they're like, okay.
Because they want to be in control.
Well, of course,
right now, Trump controls everything.
He controls a lot, but he doesn't control what's going on inside Iraq.
No.
To a tremendous, he has some control over that. Because he can destroy and kill just about anybody.
Iran thought they were in control of the Straits, and Trump proved that he was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it's not complete control because there are mini ships that are worth upwards of $1 billion apiece, who just say, those Iranians might shoot stuff at me.
Well, they're not going through.
So they're not. They stop. But we have there's some ships. We get some. We got a couple of cruise liners that
initially
disembarked their passengers out.
For a few hours, it was open. The Iranians, everybody said it's open. The first one through was a cruise ship. First one out of Dubai.
What I'd read, and maybe there were more, but I read that 2 cruise ships managed to come out.
Might be. But after
they didn't have passengers.
But I didn't know.
No,
I just said
they
the cruise ship
unloaded the
came out.
passengers, and then they made a run and got out, which was smart.
Yeah, the doors are open. Run quick before they change their mind, and they did.
They did. And it worked. I mean, I gotta give them credit.
Yeah, I don't know. Not too many made it through, but I knew the cruise ship was number one.
Well,
and they were waiting.
And with Trump saying we're blockading, you're not getting oil or not. The Iranian is slowly suffocating for lack of money.
500 million a day.
Now, what isn't being said much, but I think it's true, is it's kind of like in the U.S., the regime controls the printing presses. So they can just print money. And
how'd that work after World War I for Germany?
It doesn't.
Doesn't work.
It didn't work. I mean, but look at Venezuela. They had horrific inflation for years. And Argentina had some really pretty bad inflation for years. And the people in power still managed to stay in power.
Of course. Venezuela stayed in power.
Right. So
and I guess that's what
people get hungry.
That's what these people are looking at, I guess. Kellogg, and that's Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg.
Yeah, he's made quite a few comments.
Well, he says the president needs to create more problems for Iran, including Kharg Island. He says now you're creating a compounding problem for them to try to solve, and I don't think they can solve it because they don't have the leadership left. They can figure this out, and you now control it.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think he's a good commentator. I think he puts forward a good argument,
but he doesn't want to stand idle. He said, don't pursue additional talks with Iran. President, you gave him ample opportunity. He was very gracious in an attempt to talk the way through it. Now let's finish it out. And I think we can finish it.
And I think he's saying what a lot of the people, the other countries in the Gulf are secretly or quietly telling President Trump too. Don't walk away from this. Finish this off. We don't want these guys around. They're bad neighbors.
Because it'll re-blossom, and it take years to get back to where they were, but that would be their goal. He says we can strangle them economically. We're doing that with the blockade. Let's compound the problem. Not only do we have the terrain, we've got the blockade as well. And instead of bombing their power plants, bomb something that really hurts them. That's their fuel industry or something like that, instead of going after things that hurt people. So I think what he's getting at is it's something Trump doesn't want to do, because if you bomb that fuel industry, it's gone for decades.
Right. And I think you're right. And it's not just because,
I think he wants the people to flourish.
Trump is a builder.
Yeah, he is.
He doesn't like to destroy stuff because he knows what it takes to build it up.
Right.
And so I think General Kellogg has a good mind. I just think Trump has a better overall view of what's going on.
Now, I want you to explain this next one to me, this next article that comes out of the United Kingdom and France and all that. Military planners from more than 30 countries will meet in London to chart a path towards reopening the Strait of Hormuz. UK government announced this yesterday. Said the Ministry of Defense has set talks for April 22nd, which is today, will focus on advancing military plans to restore access to the critical global waterway once conditions allow, following a substantial ceasefire. The work is part of the UK and French-led multinational coalition to reopen the straits. The session will advance military plans to reopen the state as soon as conditions permit, following a substantial ceasefire. And that's according to the United Kingdom Defense Secretary John Haley.
It's so funny. It's like, we're not going to do any heavy lifting.
We're not there at all.
But once you, the U.S., and Israel have done the heavy lifting and gotten things all done, then we want to step in and take control.
Yeah, he says to translate, and the defense secretary, not a war secretary like us, or defense, to translate the diplomatic consensus into a joint plan to safeguard freedom of navigation in the strait and support a lasting ceasefire. I'm confident that over the next 2 days, real progress can be made. What the hell are they doing to be confident in that? Are they watching Trump closely?
This is what I see. When it was stated that they had a ceasefire, and it looked like it was an actual ceasefire, they immediately jumped in and said, we're sending ships right now.
But they're not there.
And then when the ceasefire was shown to be a farce, which a lot of people thought would happen, suddenly, oh, we have to have a conference and decide what we're going to do.
It reminds me of the way Judge Bush taught me how to hunt geese. We built duck or geese pits.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we called them in to the farm fields.
Sure. Right. It's a common technique.
As soon as they got real close, we threw open the doors and jumped up and shot them.
Right.
What Judge Bush told me, because there was like 3 of us that were actively hunting out of one pit.
Right.
One to the left, one to the right, one straight ahead. Whatever. He says, when you jump up, I don't care if you pull the trigger or you don't. As soon as you see a bird fall, you scream, "I got it."
Hey, my experience with hunters is that they're more honest.
That's what UK is doing here, and France.
Yeah, well,
they're going to be the first one to announce we've succeeded.
Yeah. Well,
we've succeeded. Our plan worked.
Yeah. This is how we do things. We have somebody else take all the risks, and then we want to grab all the benefits.
So I can never forget Judge Bush for helping me with that advice on how to goose hunt.
Well, I'm hoping he was joking.
Oh, he is, and he has. He would do it though, with his friends knowing he's doing it.
Yeah.
Not that he wants the goose. He doesn't want the goose.
Yeah. Well, then he
wants to create the conflict.
Then when it turns out that it's a swan that falls out of the sky, yeah, Judge, you're the one that shot that one.
My fact checker's already busy checking me.
Oh, that's good.
He says Europe does not have secretaries in their government. Rather, they have ministers. The Minister of Defense is led by the Defense Ministry. He would know that terminology more. And it's actually...
He's probably correct as far as Great Britain.
In the article I'm reading, they made the same mistake, saying UK Defense Secretary.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the terminology is for France and Germany.
I actually borrowed the mistake.
There you go. Yeah.
I did.
I like that. Sure. That makes sense.
Did you hear this bit about Chris Murphy?
Well, I heard something about him. Basically, he's a rabid Trump derangement syndrome type.
Yeah. Well, and Fetterman is talking about him too.
But Fetterman surprisingly makes a lot of sense. He doesn't always vote great, but what he says makes a lot of sense.
Chris Murphy has come out and made on social media, and I think it was X. Somebody said something about the Iranians were very successful at getting 26 ships through the Strait of Hormuz without the U.S. noticing, and they were able to run it and get through there, which, I don't believe for a minute.
I assumed that was just fake to start.
I don't know.
Of course, they might have been canoes,
but people believed it, and there is documentation that they turned back 26 ships, and they captured one.
Okay,
there's been 27 attempts, but this thing only being a few miles, 20 miles or something at the narrowest point.
Yeah, that's pretty narrow.
And I think with a pair of binoculars on a ladder at Onan, I could watch and see if a ship gets through there.
Well, depending on the weather, yeah.
But
we got radars and satellites and all. The ability of a modern military to sense things is just far beyond.
It's kind of a joke. It's kind of a joke. But anyway, Chris Murphy of Connecticut, he wrote awesome.
Yeah,
it's like good for Iran.
How does the Democrat?
We don't like Trump either.
I could answer this, but the idea that the Democratic Party thinks they're gaining somehow by denigrating the U.S. military and wishing for the failure of the United States in its war with Iran.
I believe he wants Trump to lose something.
Well, yeah, but I don't think most American people agree with that.
And Trump neck is out there a mile. Look, when to go back and get that down to weapons systems officer, he risked 150 people.
He did.
Or 300 people, maybe 150 planes or something.
When I look
at an amazing amount, and it was just wonderful. But it could have gone bad.
It could have. But this whole thing is a certain amount of gamble.
It is.
But Trump has been living in reality for a very long time. And he's been very, very good at figuring out essentially odds to benefit ratios. And I think that's what he did in this case. And for one thing, it was obvious we had to do something. That it was prior presidents had always felt constrained by what the people who are attacking President Trump now. I mean, the media, essentially. And, we can't do this because the media will come out against us. Well, Trump doesn't care. I mean, he has mastered the media more than any other president. I would say even more than Reagan. And so he doesn't care. He's in his last term, so he's going to do what's right for the country. So
that's all that's what I see.
And what I see when I look at his what I can view from outside of the strategy, it's a brilliant strategy. We have this thorn in our side for 47 years that has been a bad neighbor to all the countries around it. They absolutely hate the Iranian theocracy and they despise it, and they were afraid of it. They're not afraid of it anymore because we destroyed their ability to make war and project power outside their boundaries. And so what happens is we have air supremacy. That was the big gamble. The big gamble was, can we get air supremacy? Well, it wasn't absolutely clear.
No, but they had some insights after
they did
the bombing of the
nuclear facility.
And Israel went in and took out a lot of their radars.
But what I'm saying is, once you have air supremacy, basically you can destroy anything in Iran you want. And you probably can kill almost anybody you want or that's in the way. And so then the worst gamble he's already won. Now he has to keep attriting the regime and the leadership in Iran until somebody takes control enough to say, I can get rich and I won't have to die. And the whole country can be a lot better off if we negotiate with Trump. And then they come and say, okay, what's the terms?
But the leadership, they're going to get rich even if the rest of the people suffer.
You mean the existing?
Like Venezuela, the existing, if they can keep it under control.
Things will be bad for them. That will not be as good for them as they have been because they won't have near as much income. And the country is in shambles and their defense structure is destroyed and a lot of their infrastructure is in bad way. The whole country can get rich and do a lot better if they give up on this jihadist dream of bringing about Armageddon.
Yeah, but that stuff's to the bone, man. There's
the people who are true believers are fanatical, and we'll probably have to end up killing them.
Yeah,
but there is I believe in the Quran there are verses which say, "You will know if we are right by our military prowess." If we win, we're right.
Well, they're not winning.
Yeah, but they're saying they're winning. And I don't know what percentage of the people in Iran.
I think the existing, power of the military would like to see the United States put boots on the ground. They would be better prepared to frustrate them with that.
Well, boots on the ground is a kind of a vague concept. And I understand what you're saying, but I think, you put a few Marines on Carg Island, take it over. That's a lot different than trying to conquer all of Iran to the point where you have, like we did after World War II, we had a military occupation of Japan.
Right.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it has to happen.
It's so big, though. The country is massive.
It is. It's a large country, about as big as Alaska.
2.5 times the size of Texas.
Right.
It's crazy.
And it's got 93 million. It's a major
country. How are you going to run in and occupy that and find all the foxholes and everything?
Well, we did do things like that in Germany and it can be done. It's expensive. It takes a lot of time and energy. I think Trump has figured out a much better way.
I think so. And I think the Iranians know that we probably don't have the patience for it. We don't see an imminent threat now that they're already neutered.
Perhaps. Trump is thinking deeper than that.
Right.
I mean, not
he doesn't want him to rebuild.
Stop the immediate threat, but we can stop the threat for the foreseeable future by getting a regime that is friendlier. And in the process, both of us get a lot richer.
Right. And they're not feeding all these ancillary.
Well, yeah, that's one of the primary things you have to stop is this creation of the proxies around the area, like, the Houthis, particularly Hezbollah, Hamas, and because they're essentially Iranian cat's paws to do what the Iranian regime wants, and that is to spread terrorism everywhere. Right. So, and to try to make Islam, or at least the Iranian Shiite version of Islam, as the dominant power on the earth. Well, we're already done a lot of that. It doesn't take a lot more to make it as close to permanent as we reasonably can in this world.
Yeah, well, and that's what this general's been saying too, Kellogg. Trump, you're almost finished. Finish it.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah,
I think
so,
a lot of our allies, maybe not
But
publicly, are saying the same thing.
for some reason, he's showing patience. You think
Well, because he's got a plan. There's a strategy here.
I don't know what it is.
Oh, I think I know what it is.
Well, he must see something coming that we're not getting. It's
He has
not
good
saying verbally.
intelligence.
He's not saying.
What I think he sees, or that's obvious out there, is that the regime in Iran is fractured.
Right.
There's power struggles going on. One of those groups is going to come out on top.
And overwhelm the guard.
Well, maybe, or
Okay.
maybe the guard gets, and then if it's a group favorable to us, we negotiate with them and we make the deal that we impose upon them that we want. If it's a group that's unfavorable to us, we kill them.
Okay.
Seems
pretty clear.
Not hard. We have air supremacy.
Yeah.
They cannot.
It's hard to
They
hide.
have almost no defense against us.
Right. Although China apparently would like to help them.
Well, I think so. I mean, China is being hurt by not much oil getting to it.
But it's got to be more than oil.
Oh yeah, I think so.
If they wanted the oil, they could probably have talked Iran into doing it. Maybe.
Well,
But right now,
Iran has been helpful to China because it kept the U.S. busy in the Middle
that's
East.
correct. I think that's more what it is. The enemy of my enemy is my friend or something. I don't know. But Senator Rick Scott said that China was caught red-handed sending chemicals to Iran to power missiles.
So that could be maybe that ship that we blew a hole through the engine room. I
Possibly.
don't know. I'd heard rumors to that effect.
So he's describing Beijing as an imminent threat to national security. Communist China caught red-handed, hit into Iran to provide them with dual-use chemicals to create ballistic missiles, while our great military is fighting in the ground.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, I think that kind of makes sense from China's point of view. And China's done a lot of trade with Iran.
But that's going to slow down their ability to get the oil.
Oh, you mean
China?
It gives us more of an incentive.
If
to
China
say no.
extends this blockade, if China extends this fight with the U.S.,
right,
their oil is held up longer.
Well, okay. There's a couple of assumptions there.
Okay.
One is that Trump stays firm and keeps going, which I think is a good assumption.
No.
But the assumption that China might have is, well, if we can keep it up for a while, we break Trump. Then we get rid of this albatross around our neck. Because in the midterms, he loses, and then we don't have to worry about him.
Oh, there's got to be some of that. And then there's a lot of people in the United States, myself included, maybe, that, one thing that the Ukraine war that we like is that it's helping to scale back Russia, scale back Putin, weaken his military.
You notice we're not hearing much from Ukraine anymore?
Why is that?
Probably the little bit I'm getting is Ukraine is maybe gaining a bit on the Russians.
That's what I keep looking at, and even into Crimea, which was hard for them to get to Crimea. It was far enough away,
yes,
that they couldn't really have a lot of impact in Crimea, but they're having that now, and they're making headway.
So that's most of the United States old media was against Trump in Ukraine.
So
now when you get some favorable news, albeit not tremendously huge, they don't want to talk about
it. I think that's correct, and I think a lot of in Ukraine, a lot of the advances is because they focus so much on the technology. They were ahead. They got a hit on it. They started off behind.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm hearing is that they've. I mean, I heard where they supposedly took a moderate chunk of ground. I mean, who knows? Maybe a couple of square miles or something like that.
I've heard more, but
anyway, they did it completely by robot.
That's right. That's what I was getting ready to mention. It's the first time ever in history that an army has gone in and taken everything without any
Taking
manpower,
ground without using real troops.
no troops.
I mean, you can destroy everything in an area. It's not quite the same thing as taking
Right.
control of it.
Well, we did that in Hiroshima, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
not the same as taking
right,
control
yeah,
of it.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
and I've been hearing these reports, and they seem fairly credible. I mean, I've said a lot of times, first casualty in war, I don't know who I'm quoting,
truth.
is the truth.
And
And
I
it's
think-
true because truth, information, I'm going to include that in the generic category of truth. Information is extremely valuable in warfare.
and it can get you killed
Or you
save
win.
you. Well, and we used misinformation to get the Wizzo out.
Absolutely. I mean,
You know,
deception is critical to war.
right.
That philosophers about war have known that for centuries,
But
millennia.
But UK's made such advances with the use of drones and everything. They're helping the United
You mean,
States.
I heard UK,
I mean,
but I
UK,
think you meant
Ukrainian.
Ukraine.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ukrainian.
I just wasn't quite clear on the
I-
pronunciation. So
I appreciate that. I did say UK, but it's Ukrainian. That now they're helping the United States with shooting
well,
down
and
drones.
others, they're being paid by Gulf states to come over and teach anti-drone techniques
Right.
to defend against
because they have the most
the Iranians.
real-time experience.
Well, war is a great teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the advances in technology we got out of World War II. You might say, it's a horrible war and it killed off millions of people. I don't know how many millions, 50 million, 100 million people
lots.
died in World War II. It's incredibly horrible human tragedy. But we also got incredible advances in technology and aircraft and electronics, computers, metallurgy, just about anything you want to talk about.
Well, the things we did during World War II, the United States alone did in World War II, is mind-blowing on how many. I mean, we just geared up and started making aircraft like we were stamping them out of a machine. It was
Well, it was
just
amazing,
crazy.
yeah. And of course, our factories weren't being blown up, but
No, that helps.
but we had this amazing workforce, which was already in place. We had a tremendous education system. We had an industrial base, and we mobilized everything toward the war effort. It was, it's just an incredible thing. I look back and I talked to my parents because they were involved, and it was just this incredible thing. And it all came together. And my reading says that we produced more war material, everything from tanks to bullets to planes to boots than the rest of the combatants in the war combined.
I believe that.
I mean, that is, like the UK, France, Russia, Germany, Japan, China, all of them. We produced more than all the rest of them.
But during that war, the P-51 was designed and built, and they built thousands of them. And now when we build an airplane like the F-35, it takes years to get the production started and years to get it hammered out.
Well, I'm going to give a counter example. We had Secretary of War Hegseth put out an advertisement. We need somebody to come up with drones that are cheap and effective.
Really?
And a company in Arizona did and had them in production, less expensive than being produced in Iran and better in a few months.
I remember that.
And that we're
And we're still
using
doing them. Yeah, we're doing them. And in
so
fact,
we haven't completely lost.
they're kind of a knockoff of the Shahid.
Yeah, but better.
Yeah.
So,
but that's great innovation right there.
Well, it is, and we're going to have a lot more. And
Yeah.
the current, the Trump administration, just say it straight out, is just so much better at this than anything we've had in power in the United States for at least 40 years, 50 years.
He's a business guy that likes to get done on time under budget.
Yes, I mean that's what he's done all his life,
Yeah.
and they're not willing to say it wasn't invented here, so I don't want it.
No.
And they're not hidebound by saying we never did it that way, so we're not going to. And so, I mean, one of the things that we are doing, it's not touted very much, is we're using the technology created by Elon Musk's SpaceX to dominate space.
Right.
I mean, and consider that I have been told, I read, I should say, that there's 50,000 Starlink terminals in Iran. Well, it's not that many against 93 million
No,
people.
that's many more than I would have thought. I mean, because if they weren't legal, were they?
Right. Oh, I mean, severe penalties if you get caught with one.
Right.
But 50,000 among 93 million people is not.
But I know
huge.
that's how Tosi communicates with a lot of people.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is the ability to do that, to reliably put information out into an enemy's country, is just an incredible advantage. And we're not quite there yet. But I mentioned to you this morning that if I were Trump, I would include as part of the negotiations, you have to allow free access to Starlink
Well,
within Iran.
I don't think he's going to start there.
Maybe not start there, but I would say why not?
All right, comment from a listener. He says the Strait of Hormuz seems more like a zero-sum game for the U.S. and Iran. The actions of both countries is having an effect on the energy and food production of the world, especially Asia's, leaving the world in precarious state. Seems the world sees Trump as unstable. I believe there's some people in the world think he's unstable, but they said that before he did anything.
Right.
It didn't change with the Strait of Hormuz. They already labeled him as unstable. Because,
Yeah. I mean, some people see Trump as walking in a tightrope. And
Yeah.
I say, well, yes, but on both sides of the tightrope, it's positive for the United States. The question is how many people get hurt and how badly. And Trump, it appears to me, is trying to walk that tightrope in such a way that our victory results in far less people being hurt than other situations.
I believe that's true. And when he says it's a zero-sum game, I don't think it is a zero-sum game. I think this is taking 100% of Iran's money away, pretty much. I mean, they don't have much else to
Right.
That they take.
Yeah, they're not getting
And-
much income.
And it's definitely putting the squeeze on the rest of the world, but just a squeeze. It's not.
Well, and
it's not
how
cutting
many-
people off.
How many oil tankers are headed to the U.S. to fill up?
Hundreds. I don't even know how we're going to do it.
Versus Iran. And there's a good chance. I mean, Trump has already done much to increase production of petroleum in the United States. We are the largest producer of petroleum in the world. Did you know that?
Yes, but not enough to take care of the 20% that it's losing.
Probably not. But there's a big difference between a 20% cutback and a 50% or a 90%.
Yeah, right.
And
100%.
And it's a question of how long this all takes to. And he has taken that we're also ramping up the production in Venezuela, which has a big chunk of the reserves in the world.
It's
So that'll help. And we have we have taken off some of the restrictions, as I recall, still off on the Russian sale of
but
oil.
that's staying. They did, but
So, I mean, how much that'll help is hard to say because in the meantime, the Ukraine is still trying to cripple the Russian
I know.
energy industry as part of the war effort, which is understandable too.
Right. But I don't think it's a zero-sum game by any means.
No.
I think Iran is getting hurt and much harder, and I think it's going to show.
The potential for disaster is there.
Right.
I mean, if the Houthis or not the Houthis, the Iranians, I guess the IRGC is able to keep fertilizer, the precursors to fertilizer,
Right.
From coming out of the Strait of Hormuz, it could have a big effect.
It's going to have an effect, but it's not
world
going to,
food production.
It's not going to do what it does, what Iran's going through, which is a total.
Oh
cutoff.
no! But I mean, there are innocents that can be harmed, and it's
Yes.
sad to say, but
Yeah.
Iran is essentially relying on the West's and President Trump's unwillingness or to harm innocents or to allow innocents to be harmed. As they're sort of like human shields. They're kind of like saying, well, we could have famine in Asia if you don't agree with us. So we will kill millions of people unless you agree with
Well,
us.
and of course, there's going to be enemies of Trump. They're going to impeach him for causing famine in Asia.
Well,
Humanitarian thing versus bombing them. The story here also on Clark Island. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent points out that it's just a matter of days before they have to
They'll have to stop.
They have to stop because the oil pumps, once they pump them, they keep pumping, and there's no place to put it. We're in trouble. They got to stop the pumps, which creates other problems with restarting and everything else.
If I was in Iran, and I don't know how much of a problem it is to stop pumping out of the oil wells. I've read some analysis by some people who had to deal with oil well maintenance. And they say, nah, most oil wells, it's not a big deal. You can let them shut down for a few days. I mean, this kind of stuff. But if it was, let's say that it was a big problem. Well, if I were Iranian, And the choice is have my oil wells destroyed or pump oil into the Strait of into the Gulf. I'll just pump oil into the ocean.
Possibly.
I mean, so I don't think that's a
Of course.
huge concern for them.
I think that would result in an immediate destruction of the oil wells. We wouldn't let that happen.
Hard to know exactly.
I don't think Trump bends to those kinds of things.
No, I
he'll
don't
eliminate
think
it.
so.
He says it's just a matter of days. Karg Island storage will be full. The fragile Iranian oil wells will be shut in, constraining Iran's maritime trade. Directly targets the regime's primary revenue lifelines. U.S. Treasury will also continue to apply maximum pressure through the economic fury to systematically degrade Tehran's ability to generate, move, and repatriate funds.
Now, I want to make it clear. I like Scott Bessent.
Yeah.
I think he's a brilliant guy. I've listened to him.
Mm-hmm.
He understands things economically exceptionally well. I just don't think this idea that some Iranian wells might be destroyed because they're not pumping them much oil is much of a deterrent to them.
I have no idea. I just, I've been reading.
And I will say, in my own credit, 40 years ago, I had a class on petroleum engineering.
You probably did. Well, I know you studied mining and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was in part of my mining engineering degree.
But I've heard that same thing about Russia, with particularly because they freeze or could freeze, and you said that might be debunked also.
Well, that was put out at the beginning of the Ukrainian war,
Right.
and it turned out to be just a bunch of bunk. It just didn't happen, and so I think the analysis is simply wrong.
Yeah. He directly attacks you, this listener. He said, what does your host mean by really he's so brilliant that military planners try to keep him away from meetings, according to recent reports? I'm sure there's reports out there like that. There's
all kinds of reports that attack Trump, but most of them turn out to be bunk.
And there's I had to look the other day to see, because he said something else about the military people don't like him. By and large, I mean, overwhelmingly, he's more supported by military than is against him.
You can always find a select group and say this group dislikes him or likes him, but in general, the military as a whole is absolutely ecstatic with having Trump in charge.
Yes. One of the reports I read was 67% of the military support him, which I thought was low. I didn't realize it was
surprised
that low.
it'd be that low.
But, well, I think there was retired military.
Oh, well, that's different.
Okay. Retired military, because you're going to find ex-generals go out and say, "Oh, he's horrible."
Well,
we need to put dresses on our guys.
I will tell you that the older you get and the more comfortable you get, your attitude changes too.
Does it?
Well, yeah. I mean, the status quo is comfortable. I want to say it that way.
My son's active military. He is not a Trump fan.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it does happen.
Sure.
But to say, "Oh my God, there's a military guy that doesn't agree with Trump," I mean, yes,
you're going to find him. Absolutely.
Yeah. Does that mean does he think that 100% of the military agreed with Biden and loved him?
I'll put forward a statistic or just a fact. During the Biden administration, we had a very difficult time meeting recruitment goals.
Yes.
During the Trump administration, we're turning people away.
Well, during the Biden time, they were actually lowering their goals,
standards, right?
And still couldn't make it.
Right.
In fact, retired military, third generation, second generation military, told their kids, don't go.
Don't do it.
Yeah. And that's all turned around.
Yes, it has 100% completely reversed.
But it gets ignored because somebody reads a report that there's a military guy that doesn't like Trump. Okay, I get it.
Well, you can find that. I mean,
it's always been that way. The military people came out against Reagan. They came out against Bush, always.
Exactly.
Because it's never going to be 100%.
Well, and I'll put out something that I don't think people understand, and that is that in general, I don't mean a pun, generals don't like to go to war because wars ruin armies.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's absolutely true that high-ranking people don't like the idea of going to war.
What's wrong with this Kellogg then? This Keith Kellogg, it says just finish it. Maybe because he doesn't want to.
He's not in charge of the army anymore.
No, he's retired.
He's retired.
Yeah.
And you still get clear thinkers. I think Trump has surrounded himself with clear thinking people, and they gave him good advice. Look, we can do this. These are our capabilities. I think our capabilities turned out to be far better and greater than we ever thought. I mean,
far better than I ever thought, but I'm not.
It's just
my head's not in it. But I don't understand what they've done secretly that they're not telling us about. And apparently some of that got used in Venezuela.
Exactly. So I you can't really know how good your equipment, your strategies, your tactics are
Till you pull the
until
trigger.
you actually do them.
Right.
But I think that looking at what happened in Ukraine as one example, and in other places, people in the military, analysts who try to figure this stuff out, said, I think we're a lot better than those guys, and we won't have much in the way of casualties. And the tendency for a military analyst is to be very conservative and to say, to overstate the enemy's capabilities and to understate your own.
Right.
That because it's a little safer that way. You feel a little safer. So there is that tendency. But so that's why I think people were somewhat surprised at how completely one-sided air war over Iran has been. It's just, I'm trying to think of any time we've seen anything like it. Maybe it could have been that way in Vietnam if we hadn't completely, tied one hand behind our backs and had to hop on one foot when we were fighting in Vietnam. I mean, I don't know, but we haven't seen it, that kind of air superiority in a conflict for a while. Well, we didn't have quite as good, but we had pretty good in the Gulf Wars, first Gulf War and then the second. But this is far better. I mean, in terms of the ability to project power and inflict damage without having damage inflicted upon you.
My fact checker Edward is trying to throw a wet blanket on some of this, but
good.
But I think it's factual. He says polling is showing the Democrats are taking the Vietnam media push of mocking the U.S. military slowly is working. Polls are showing that those under 35 of age believe that the U.S. is losing the war and fear of a draft by 9 points. This group of voters feels the Democratic Party is better suited to stop the Iranian war. 64% of Democrats running for office has impeached Trump as one of their top points. I believe that one also.
I think that's all true.
Yeah, I
just think it's all going to implode when we win the war. Some Iranian faction decides they want to live and be rich and takes over the country and negotiates with us and basically accepts our terms. And then we, have another 5 months to go until the midterms.
I agree. And it's scary and it's time sensitive.
It's somewhat, time sensitive.
I mean, Trump doesn't want to be pinned down to a time, and
no, you shouldn't be, and he shouldn't be, and Trump has been so good at figuring out what's going on. Now, there are two things that I would argue he made major mistakes. Well, maybe three. First off, he didn't get the people who really supported him behind him in the first term. Second, he, I think, mishandled the whole COVID crisis by relying on experts whose major concern was getting rid of Trump instead of solving the crisis. And third, I don't think he understood how far the left was willing to go to manipulate elections in the 2020 election, which was why he was surprised that it came out against him.
I noticed all 3 of your points were the first term, not second term.
That's right.
And I think he learned a lot.
Exactly. And not only that, but he had this incredible, attempt of using the government agencies against him for 4 years before he was elected in 2024. And so he's much more sophisticated and much more aware of what he has to do. I mean, you look at what he's done in 16 months? It's unbelievable.
It is. It's enough to get you impeached.
Yeah. I mean, it's just unreal what he's accomplished.
How many more times do you think he could be impeached when the Democrats could take over the House?
Let's say they take the House, once a month, maybe. I don't know.
Think it'd be once a month? It could be.
It
At
could
least,
be
3 or 4 times a year.
And a lot depends on what sort of margin they might end up. And if they end up with a 2 or 3 vote margin, they might not be able to do it so much.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think would be a very bad result, and that if we want to complete the resurgence and restoration of a a democratic republic, a constitutional republic in the United States, we need to win the midterms.
Yeah, that's the way it seems. And of course, Virginia.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
Well, it was not a surprise at Virginia. They had a vote yesterday to redistrict to where their state becomes 10-1 Democrat in the House.
Right.
Now, that's just the districts. That doesn't mean they're all going to go the way they plan.
I looked at that a little bit. And to do that, they have to make the margin in each district fairly small. Democrats are, 53% to 47% Republicans registered or something. And that could backfire on them. They could lose them all if there's a big swing toward the Republicans.
Right. Well, and they could, but then now there's already lawsuits that are being planned. I mean, they're probably already filed that what they're doing is unconstitutional according to the Virginia Constitution too. That they have to be. The districts have to be small. They can't, and some of them are hundreds of miles long.
Right.
They're going to web throughout the country in order to get what the margins they wanted.
Yeah, I took a look at the maps.
Yeah,
and I just don't know how it'll turn out.
I don't know.
I mean, this is an area of law that we've had some activity in the last few years, and
the courts don't want to get too involved.
They don't, and the Supreme Court basically said, it's up to the states to do it. But they've also, let's see, what was it? Which state? They ruled about one state saying you can't, and then they also ruled that Texas could. So
right.
I don't know how it'll turn out. It's beyond. I can't predict that.
Wow, I don't know.
Well, I could, but I think it's so. I have so little to go on. I wouldn't have any confidence in my prediction.
And I told you off air this morning. They reported it yesterday that there was this idea that we take back the county Arlington.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought.
Which was Virginia gave that county in 1790 to the District of Columbia to form the District of Columbia, which the District of Columbia was formed to be not in a state, not influenced by a state, and separate. And that was constitutionally. And I know the Democrats want to make it a state, but that it was intentionally done that way.
It was intentionally create a federal zone.
Half of it was given by Maryland, half of it given by Virginia, each 5 square miles.
Right. And then you said in 1843, Virginia took back their 5 square miles
because of a slavery thing, and they wanted to preserve slavery.
And if I may be wrong, but my memory of how the geometries are is that the Potomac River is the border.
Correct. And
Virginia took back, half that's on the other side of the river.
They're 5 square miles. And now it's one of the richest counties in the country, because it's a lot of it's a lot of bureaucrats. They make money.
It's basically in the capital city.
It is.
And if you look around the world, capital cities tend to get rich because that's where the power is concentrated, and so it attracts money.
I always knew it was next to the capital city. I didn't realize it was the capital city. Up until
you mean DC?
DC. I mean Arlington.
Oh, Arlington is not
in the capital city, but it's right next to it.
It is. It's this Potomac River separates it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had I've been there a couple times, and Arlington tends to be very prosperous.
Yes. Yeah.
It's also right next to the Pentagon.
Right. The Pentagon's in Arlington.
Yeah.
So I guess it should have been inside the DC, but
and you said nobody has challenged it.
No, it's never been to the Supreme Court, which is interesting. So there's never been a ruling on it.
Right. Apparently, they didn't even challenge it during the Civil War.
No.
And didn't Robert E. Lee have a house right there?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was more than a house. It was an estate, a big farm, lots of acreage.
It was,
and they grabbed it
during the Civil War, and it became
they made it into a cemetery.
A hospital first, and then they were burying people outside.
And what happened is that after the war, Robert E. Lee filed a lawsuit, and they ruled in his favor eventually.
It was actually to his kids, not to him. Grandkids, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
They actually had to pay for the property.
Yeah, which makes sense. It's right in the U.S. You don't take stuff for use without compensation.
Edward says that Arlington and Alexandria are known for having all the privileges of Washington, D.C. without its crime.
Well, not only without its crime, without its restrictions. I mean, D.C. is in my opinion, what I've read, it's just a horribly governed city.
Well, we've seen that over the years.
And it's just really bad.
Which one was the DC mayor that went to
That's a
jail
long time ago. I remember him
for cocaine abuse and all that stuff?
He's famous for making some quote when he was caught.
Marion Barry.
Yeah, Marion Barry. And the quote I recall is something like, "The bitch set me up."
I know. And then they put him back in office afterwards.
It's not hard for me to understand. I mean, because we have seen what happened with President Trump. And, he's charged with all these crimes and all this stuff. And yet Trump supporters look at, they're after him because of politics. And they were right.
Well, they are. But Marion Barry was really doing the cocaine.
He was, but he was also a popular mayor. And maybe he had a whole bunch of people in D.C. who were also doing cocaine, said, why are you going after him?
I think it was a sting operation with FBI or something, too.
Oh, sure.
Something like that.
I mean, I'm not condoning his actions, but I can understand the psychology of the people who supported him and said, we're not going to let the federal government tell us who we can have for a mayor.
Right. I don't care if he's a jailbird. He's our jailbird.
Exactly.
And we say that about Trump. He's our felon.
Exactly. Yeah.
Although I think that felony is ridiculous. But it'll probably go away.
Eventually it'll probably get reversed.
Yeah, it's not going to last at all. I just want to mention we have Jim Pfaff calling in a half hour.
Oh, good. Yeah. I always enjoy him. He's got a great insight, and he's a great radio personality.
He really is.
I mean, he just never stops talking, and it's not only that he doesn't stop, but he has interesting insight and a way of looking at things, and he has information that most people don't have access. A lot of things that I don't have access to.
He mentioned a few things that he'd like to discuss, and that's DHS ICE director changes, which it would be interesting. Sex scandals in Congress.
Those perked up, and we got rid of. A couple of people have resigned.
The Trump poll
three
number,
now have
Trump poll numbers, and of course of Iran. I'd like his insights on Iran.
Yeah, I mean he's got a good mind. He's plugged in.
Yeah, and he looks at it politically. I mean, he cares about the politics of it in the country. Right. I mean, he wants to see the conservatives.
I look at him and I said, maybe this guy is smarter than me.
I think so. I do.
He has a lot better sources on stuff.
He does, and he lives right there in the area.
Oh yeah, he's immersed in it all the time,
and he's worked for a lot of politicians and ran things. Ships have been fired on apparently in the last since yesterday. 3 of them apparently by Iran, not by us.
I was going to say, it kind of makes a difference.
Yeah, they and here's what I found odd. It's in this one article, the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operation said early Wednesday that Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard fired on a container ship in the Strait of Hormuz. According to the UK MTO, it was an Iranian Guard gunboat approached the vessel, opened fire, causing heavy damage to the ship. The incident occurred 15 nautical miles northeast of Oman, according to the UK MTO. The crew was reported safe, the British military said. Now, they mentioned British military like 10 times in this article, and it's only a couple lines. They want to get noticed as being the what? The reporter? Are they the reporter? Or they?
It wasn't like they were involved.
I don't know. No, but we're not getting this from the United States side. Well, at least this article's not.
And of course, you always look at all these reports from whatever source. You say, is it real or what really happened?
Well, I've read a few reports on the shit.
It sounds like there was somebody, the IRGC, IRGC actually fired at the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, well, what's going on? Because we have a lot of presence there.
But we're in a ceasefire. I guess we're not firing at them.
I don't know. I mean, I'm surprised.
It says a gunboat did it. We got the A-10s flying around. I'm sure.
Exactly.
They could have taken it out.
So were they firing at a ship that they had given permission to? We've seen that happen once already.
No. But there was a few of them that it happened to, according to some of the articles.
I haven't heard of others.
Some say there's no report of damage to the vessel, even though they were fired at. On that
Well,
kind
I
of
mean, that's
stuff.
possible. I had heard on the container ship, I had heard that they had the bridge had been damaged.
And it's all coming from the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operation.
Yeah, well, so we got a single
So-
source that's reporting a bunch of stuff.
Well, it's I've seen it in others too, but
okay.
but it's just interesting that they want to engage heavily now
Well, yeah,
because they want to take credit for the strait being open when it happens.
right.
They're telling Trump to hurry up so we can announce that we did it.
Yeah, and this is natural. I mean, it's
Yeah.
people in power are going to want to take credit for whatever they can, whether they have anything to do with it or not.
Yeah.
And I will, I'll mention something to ruffle a few feathers,
Uh-oh.
and that is that people claim that the United States won the Second World War. Well, we did, but we had a lot of help. And frankly, without the millions of Russian troops, there's real questionable whether we would have won or not. And the Russians make the claim that they were responsible for winning, and they've got good reasons to claim it. They lost more troops than anybody else. They defeated the Nazi army on the Eastern Front. Stalingrad was probably the major turning point in the war. And they probably killed off more Germans than anybody else. So to claim that the U.S. was the only or the major impetus for winning the war is just not correct. We were heavily involved, and it was important that we were there, but all of the allies were important one way or another.
That's what I've heard, but every country claimed, including France. I think France claimed.
Yeah, sure. I mean, what I'm saying is that every power group wants to claim we were the ones,
Right.
and it's not really true. They were all involved.
My fact checker continues to harass me.
Well, that's what he does, right?
He lets me know it's pronounced Iran, not Iran. Iran.
Okay. Iran. Yeah.
Iran,
Iran.
not
Okay.
Iran. And I'm not the only one. I listen to a lot of reports throughout the day that make the same critical error that I do, and it's what sticks with me.
I know that if you read a lot, especially when you're young, it's very easy to mispronounce things because you never heard the word.
I
You
do it
just
on a
read
regular basis.
You know?
So I'm going to talk about robots.
Oh, that's
Oh,
fun.
it's something
Interesting.
I'm equally not qualified for, but I'm going to give it a shot. So I might turn my phone off first, but I read this article and I pointed out to the BMW is using humanoid robots to build their EVs,
Right.
which I'm always interested. I'm interested in the technology. I'm interested in what we're doing with it and how it's moving forward and how it's being implemented and all of that kind
Of course,
stuff.
people have been using robots.
But I get curious as to why BMW gets this big article and all that stuff. And I don't know that they're at the front, the cutting edge of
Some BMW PR guy did a good job.
probably. But they're probably really using them. It's in
I'm sure they
and
are.
They're using them in South Carolina,
Okay.
which also made me curious. Are they not allowed to use them in Germany? Now, Germany's a little more regulated. I don't know.
It's possible that the regulations in Germany are more stifling.
A lot of the progressives in this country have looked at the robots as being a detriment to our tax collections, our unemployment insurance, our
Right.
all the stuff, because you start replacing robots or humans with robots. They're not going to start collecting Social Security. They're not going to start collecting unemployment insurance.
That's
they're not
right.
gonna collect all that stuff.
But then you don't have to pay them Social Security or
Well, that's beside.
Healthcare is
They
a
look
lot
at how much
simpler.
money that's coming in. Some states have even said, "Well, if you have a robot, you're going to pay something anyway."
Oh yeah,
you know,
well, there's
all
some
that kind of
talk about taxing robots.
I don't
and
think
it's
they-
not completely
Yeah.
insane.
Your
but that might make
robot
sense.
has to pay unemployment insurance.
Well, whatever.
Yeah, but they're using it. It's a hexagon robotics. They're partnering with it, so they're not manufacturing. And I guess I'm making that comparison to Tesla, where Musk wants to have total control. Vertical everything. As he can.
Well, I follow some of what's going on with Tesla and SpaceX, and it's been reported for several weeks that Tesla is starting to use some of their Optimus robots, the early
humanoid
version.
ones.
They're humanoid
'cause
in their
robots-
manufacturing
Robots have been used in manufactured cars for decades.
for decades. Yes.
Yeah. For rudimentary things, but they don't look like humans. They're just going to be
Right. I
know.
recall people telling me that the engines for cars that come out of Japan are never touched by human hands until they're done.
Hmm.
It's all robotic,
Maybe.
almost complete robotic production line, which makes sense to me.
But BMW now is touting that the humanoid robot pilot built over 30,000 vehicles. I mean,
That's a lot
it
of vehicles.
doesn't say that no humans were involved, but that task may, they're doing like welding or doing anything.
Sure.
But welding's been done by robots forever. They just weren't humanoid. But
Right.
they got these humanoid robots just holding the sheet metal straight.
It might be interesting to go and look at the plant, see what's going on.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm all for it. I think anytime they use them, it's always interesting. But
Sure.
I'd be more interested in the innovations that Musk is making. Whatever he's doing. But,
well, what the idea? This is my interpretation. The idea of a humanoid robot is that it can directly replace people eventually.
that's the point, and we're built for people. The
Right.
walkways are built for people. The seats are built for people.
Factories are built for. It's all designed about.
So it'd be easy to throw a robot in there because it'll already fit.
Right, and it's almost certainly more precise.
Yeah.
Doesn't get tired.
All the tables will be the right height.
Don't have to give it coffee breaks.
Yeah.
It just works.
Just have to pay the unemployment insurance.
You probably have to take them down for servicing and maintenance every once in a while. Stuff wears out, no matter if it's metal or flesh.
Yeah, but maybe you have robots fixing the robots.
Sure, exactly.
That's,
Yeah, I mean that's what we're headed toward that.
But this article just goes through a bunch of stuff that they have, sensors to detect people, and all the same stuff that they all do. But it's not. They're not the manufactured robot. I'd rather read the article on the manufactured robot and what they plan on doing with it. But they're just saying that BMW bought a tool and they put it to use.
Well, yeah,
and they're using AI powered robots, and of course, everybody says so much is AI now. I wonder to what extent.
Yeah, I've got an assignment, an article. I've got it about half done about Every Town, which is a Bloomberg funded sort of anti-Second Amendment site. And they put up a couple of web pages that are powered by AI. And they very carefully, I mean, I give them credit. They very carefully say, well, this is AI, so everything may not be correct, but we're using AI because it works mostly, that's not a direct quote, but essentially what they're saying. And I looked at their site and I was just kind of checking things out, because I'm going to write an article and they have a tool there and you could select for machine guns and legal ownership. So I checked that, and there were 6 cases in the last, about 4 months, almost 4 months. They were all wrong.
They were all wrong?
Every one of them was illegally owned. there was no legal ownership.
You can legally own a machine gun.
Well, you can, but none of these, and one of them wasn't even a machine gun.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, it's an interesting tool. I found it useful.
But question it.
But it's AI. It's not something you can depend on to be correct. I think humans are still better than AI at figuring out what's real or not. At least if you got somebody who's trying to.
Well, maybe we just need to build more data centers and make them smarter.
Well, all that's happening.
I know.
It'll be interesting to see when one finally gets into orbit. That's what Musk is talking about.
Yeah, and I guess the energy problem would be satisfied because it would be constant to the sun and he could put some solar panels and all that.
Right. Yeah. The only question, we talked about this on the air before, was how do you get rid of the waste heat, which is a problem.
I thought that would be easy because space is cold, but apparently it's not that simple.
As we talked about, you can get rid of heat 3 ways, and the only way that's really available in space is by radiation. And so you have to get the radiator up to a certain temperature. It's not a difficult engineering problem. It's just, how do you do it the best way in space?
Right. I'm sure they can figure that one out.
I think so. But it might turn out to be a little more expensive than they thought.
I went to a Chamber of Commerce program yesterday.
Okay.
First time in many years. I used to go to tons of all the stuff.
Right.
And, I've been a little more of a hermit in the last few years.
Well, I don't
But-
know. Herman is a little strong.
But
You've been busy.
I haven't
with
been
other
doing near as
things.
much. But I got invited. Pastor Tyrone Jones
Oh,
sent me an invitation last night, and of course, people want to know, well, what'd you do wrong, Russ? What's he want to talk to you about? You know, apparently nothing. I was okay, but
well, I mean,
it was nice of him. He had an extra.
anybody who is trying to motivate people knows that you also motivate them by positive things.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe he says, get off your butt and start attending stuff, Russ. But it was the state of the city by the mayor last night. So he went through the programs and the things that we're doing. How many houses are being built and all that kind of stuff. And data centers come out.
Ah,
Yeah,
right.
And and just so you know, there's no active contracts or plans right now to build a data center. They're looking for somebody.
Sort of an exploratory
Well,
look.
Yeah, and they're hoping we get one.
Well, it makes sense. Yeah.
Man, there's already these protests about power and water and all kinds of stuff. That
Yeah, it seems kind of weird.
it does. I think it's out of place.
I mean, maybe it's
gonna
just general Ludditism. Anything new, bad.
be right. And he talked about the spaceport,
Right.
which actually has a lot more going for it than I would have thought. I didn't know that there'd be that many people that would want to say, "Well, we're good. We need a place. We need more."
Oh, I
and
think
we
so.
would be ideal.
I mean, I am very. I'm very supportive of the idea of having a spaceport here.
Yeah, and basically just a pad to launch from, and everyone else would be responsible.
Well, you need safety area, and we have a lot of that.
Yeah. Robotic nursing homes are cheaper to help with the final solution for aging patients. Wait a minute. Madison is listening, and she just sent me a robotic nursing home. I'm afraid to look at it. I don't know what it means, the final solution.
Yeah, it has some implications, doesn't it?
I'll have to. Yeah.
Well, they are.
Wait a minute. It shows the T100 Terminator.
Terminator.
Okay, I finally brought it up.
It's a black humor.
Now, see, I like Madison, and I think Edward put her up to that.
I wouldn't have a.
That's sweet.
I could believe that.
Sweet young lady would not come up with that on her
Well,
own.
yeah. I mean, she's very capable. She's very smart.
Final solution
So,
for aging parents. But I got to look at it in this context. When she
Well-
says aging parents, she talks about her dad that way. I mean,
yeah. For her father
Okay.
is very old.
I actually, the rationale is coming more clear.
Yeah. Now, I will say the Japanese have been pursuing this for a long time
What?
because they have an aging population and they don't have replacement. They're not creating enough younger Japanese to do it. So their solution is we're going to make robots that can take care of our older people. And I think that's moving along quite rapidly.
But I think that's great to take care of them. But I think this was a different context of
I
take care.
understand. I
Especially when
look
you
at the
have
picture
a
and I said
robot called
Terminator.
the Terminator.
Yeah, right. They call it the final solution.
I would rather
Yeah.
have Nurse Jackie. I guess that wouldn't be great.
Like I said,
either.
it's
Yeah.
very dark humor.
Absolutely. No dark humor with the city. I think Doug does a great job. Our mayor, Doug Nichols, and the numbers behind that number of houses built increased, and so we're still building more houses than we did last year.
Right.
Last year we built more than the year before, whatever, and it's still going on. So
Now, I am gonna go off on a slight tangent and say that I don't believe growth forever is a good policy.
I do, but it's got to be steady growth.
Well, you end up with the earth covered in cities that way, and I think we can only sustain growth over a very long term by moving
Well,
out into space.
At least up until the Great Flood.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to cite biblical precedent, okay.
Yeah,
But
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I think, and what we're seeing is the population on the earth in the U.S., most Western Europe, and China we're looking at growth going below replacement level.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a steady state when we reach about 10, 11, 12 billion people.
We're not there yet.
We're getting close. But there are places, and this is what's going to happen. It's why I kind of denigrate the idea, is because there are cultures which are producing lots of people.
Sure.
You know, you look at Africa and some of the Islamic countries, and they're producing lots of people. So does it, no matter how far down we get,
They can all get into California, though.
yeah, well, it can. But if we get to the point where there's only 1% of the people that is having large population growth, well, eventually that 1% takes over.
Right.
Eventually.
Right.
It may take hundreds
If
of
the- if
years,
the rest of it
thousands of
don't.
years.
Yeah. But Japan's had a low birth rate for decades. I mean,
And they're losing population. Quite.
China did. It was self-imposed, though. They,
Oh,
the
they're
one
in
child
severe.
program.
They're losing population very fast, and I don't know what'll happen there. I mean, part of the way that the idea of reducing population was sold to the Chinese leadership, the CCP, was, well, it's good. You have more resources for everybody. And now they're saying, well, maybe it's not so good. Well, you can look at it either way. And if robotics comes along, maybe we don't need as many people to produce the lifestyle we want.
Yeah. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't think in our lifetimes we're going to worry about it, but it's
Well, you and I are old, and I'm older than you.
yes, you are. and
So,
They might
next 10 to
send me
20
a tomato.
years.
but I you have the Bill Gates type attitude that we've got to reduce the population, and
I'm not sure I agree with that either.
yeah.
But infinite population growth, unless we move out into space, then maybe we can continue to grow the population at a high rate for another million years or two.
Oh,
I don't know. And
that's
way beyond my ability to understand.
That's not going
things.
to happen within our lifetime. I mean, living in space.
Oh, some people are going to. Already talking about it, having a city on
But-
the moon within the next few years.
But yeah,
That would be a tiny, insignificant fraction, but it's a start.
yeah, but just the gravity and everything, the human body would not.
Oh, well, I was an avid fan of science fiction. There's ways to overcome all this stuff. And, it's a question of how long it takes and a bunch of other things. But I think that eventually, that could be 1,000 years from now, if we survive, human population space could exceed that of Earth without any difficulty just inside the solar system.
You mean like Mars or something?
Well, it'd be Mars, it'd be the asteroid belt.
Right.
We may terraform Venus or blow it up and
Yeah,
terraform the fragments. I don't know. I mean,
few
there are theoretical possibilities that we can do this, and frankly, our technology is expanding in so rapidly. What our capabilities will be 100 years from now is completely unknown.
Yeah.
I mean, look at 100 years ago, 1926. That was a pretty positive time, but nobody had any clue about computers
No.
in 1926.
No.
The idea of the internet was, nobody even thought of anything like it. Automobiles were just starting to become popular. The space travel, I think maybe when did Buck Rogers come out? I
They
think
say
it was
they were
after
thought
that.
about anyway, but
They kind of thought about it.
yeah.
So, the golden age of science fiction started in the 30s. So
Yeah.
that was after the 20s. So, I mean, there was some, Jules Verne, H.G. Wells were earlier than that, but really started taking off in the 1930s.
Edward talked, he gave us a note on the Chinese one baby policy. I knew it was ended. I didn't realize it was 2015 is when the one child ended to the two child. And apparently they moved that up to the 3-child policy in 21. I didn't even know we were on a 3-child policy.
Yeah. And they're trying to incentivize Chinese women to have more babies. And basically the Chinese women are saying, no.
No.
I mean, we see this all over the world. It's not just in China. It was a big problem in Russia. So in socialist societies or communist or fascist, as I would characterize the Chinese today, it's harder to incentivize people, particularly young women, to have babies.
Putin has come out and asked for an increase.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
They're just not having a lot of luck with it.
No.
And, that's just the way it is.
We could send him some illegal immigrants.
Oh, they have a lot of illegal immigrants already, and they're having problems with them. Merkel did a lot to
Well-
destroy or severely harm Germany, in my opinion.
Right. The since I'm talking about robots, and I got 20 minutes or 10 minutes before Jim calls, but the Chinese just had a world record breaking robot run a half marathon. It beat people for the first time.
Okay,
Well, it
interesting.
was the first time.
Yeah.
Last year they did it, and the robot ran 2 hours and 40 minutes. This year it ran in 50 minutes and 26 seconds.
Wait a minute. For a marathon?
Half. 13 miles.
I don't think any human has run it that fast.
No, he beat the humans.
Yeah, all humans.
All humans. He beat the
He
human
beat the record for
by
humans.
by 57 minutes.
Right.
Nearly an hour.
Because he's running at about 27 miles an hour.
I don't think I could sustain
And
that.
the fastest human,
Can't get that.
even in a
Dash.
sprint,
Yeah, sprint.
is maybe going 22 or 3. And
Yeah.
they can't maintain that for 26 miles.
A couple things interesting about this is the battery that would keep that thing running for a full hour at that kind of usage is impressive.
Yeah.
I imagine that's not a small amount.
Well, you're correct. I mean, it's probably using the best battery available to do that. And there are some batteries that don't recharge well, but you can give you a lot of energy for a short period of time. And
Well, an hour is not a short period of time when you're putting that kind of stress. I mean, I don't know what it costs to propel that
I
thing.
don't know what the
It's not going to be light. It was a bipedal
What the-
robot, humanoid looking.
what the wattage use of it is, probably in the neighborhood of 400, 500 watts per hour. I mean,
So
watts generally.
but you're talking about a heavy battery at that point.
Well, so I don't know. I mean, battery tech is changing rapidly.
It is. Well,
But it's interesting. And I'll say why it's interesting to me, because I was at the SHOT Show Industry Day at the range, and they had, I forget the name of the company. It's well known out there. They produce these mechanical dogs that you've seen on the internet that can, do dog-like things, and they're pretty impressive. And this dog was designed to help police. It'd go into houses and stuff and look for things and, provide a mechanical robot or a robot that would do things that were dangerous for a human to do. So I asked her, how fast can this dog travel? 3 miles an hour.
that's not very much.
That's about like a human walk. So
Yeah,
you
a
could walk
stroll.
away from this dog without too much trouble.
That's a stroll, man.
But here you have a humanoid robot running for 26 miles faster
No,
than
it's 13 miles.
half a mile.
Half marathon.
Okay.
13 miles.
And 53 minutes
50 minutes and 26 seconds.
for a half marathon. Okay, that's not nearly as fast as I had thought.
Yeah.
But it's still faster
Well,
than any human.
Well, by an hour.
No,
The record, it said it beat the human record by 57 minutes.
no, I don't believe it.
So
For half a marathon?
half a marathon. You're saying a half marathon is,
I'm saying a half a marathon, the best runners could do it in a little over an hour, around an hour.
I don't think so.
Well, let's check it out. Now, if it was a full marathon, I'd agree with you.
23 miles.
26 miles.
Or 26, I'm sorry. Yeah. Fastest marathon times are 57:20 for men. So
Half or full?
that's a half.
Yeah,
So
right.
how can you be right? I'm not,
Because I usually am right.
how can you be right?
Because I know some things.
Wow.
Because I've actually did a full marathon once.
Well, this article said 57 minutes. It meant to say 7 minutes. Because it was right at 7 minutes. Not
Took
57
7
minutes.
minutes for this thing to run.
No, 7 minutes faster than the fastest
Yeah,
human.
okay, 7 minutes makes sense.
But they were saying it's 57. That's
Yeah,
like,
they're wrong. They just got it wrong.
oh man.
So it's 7
and I
minutes.
ran
fast.
with it.
Well, you only know what other people
Man,
have found out.
I
What
could've-
you read.
Could have double checked that.
Well,
Yeah.
I tried to help out.
Well, there wasn't just one robot in this marathon.
Maybe
They
it was,
ran.
it was a robotic marathon. So
No. It had 12,000 humans.
Oh, and how many robots?
I think it was like a dozen,
How many finished?
half.
Half of the dozen. 6 finished.
I think so.
6 robots finished.
Yeah, it was. No, it says dozens, not a dozen. It says dozens,
Yeah.
and it doesn't say the exact amount. But I did see some pictures of some that just imploded. I mean, like they fell down, they tripped over something, they fell down, and then
Well,
just
probably their battery
broke
ran out.
apart. No,
Yeah.
this is early on.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
they ran into, the barriers and stuff. Saw some glitches, stumbling.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I think it was like 25 years ago that DARPA, Defense Research Applications Agency or something like that. I might have the acronym wrong, but I remember them. They're very, very effective. Had competitions for autonomous vehicles.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Here in Yuma.
Well,
It was in the desert near Yuma.
And they had several of them. And at the time I'm going, wow, that's amazing. The progress they're making.
But the first time they ran it here, none of them finished.
Right.
They made progress.
But they made progress. And then about the third iteration, they had them driving in an abandoned Air Force base over in California, and they did pretty well.
Yeah.
They were able to park and not get into accidents and all this stuff. And that was about 20 years ago. And here we are. We're right on the verge of Tesla, I think, being able to have, they already have some fully autonomous vehicles that are working in Austin, Texas as a pilot program. So very likely you'll be able to buy a vehicle and you get into it and tell it, take me to where I want to go. And it does it in a year or two. I mean, so we're on the edge. But what they found out, and it's kind of like the robots remind me of this, is that you can get pretty close pretty fast. It's the last few percentage points that are hard.
That's it.
You get 99%, but that last percentage point, you trip over a piece of gravel in the road.
Something little, but that's how you learn.
Right.
We got to take a break so I can, and we'll be right back with Jim Pfaff from the Conservative Union. We'll be right back. Caucus. Russ Clark back with you. Dean's here. And it looks like I've got a phone call. Let's take that. You're on the air.
It's Jim Pfaff.
Well, good morning, Jim. How are you?
I'm well. How are y'all doing?
I'm doing well. So now you live in Virginia?
I live between Virginia and Indiana. I own a house in Indiana, and we're back and forth between the two.
Well, I was just wondering if you voted yesterday for.
No, I'm an Indiana resident.
Okay, so you didn't vote for redistricting or anything.
I was ineligible to vote. I am a U.S. citizen, but I'm not a resident of Virginia.
But it looks like it passed, and Virginia has got the green light, and it's already being challenged, I would assume.
Well, so first of all, it passed, but barely, and they spent $10 million. Like I think the no vote that Republicans were supporting was, I don't know, outspent maybe 5 to 10 to 1. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how many millions was spent on the no side, but they spent over $10 million to try to pass this thing.
So how close was it?
It was like 51 to 49.
Yeah, I heard that number, but I thought maybe you had definitive results.
Yeah.
I didn't see, because they like to count these things for various days.
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
never quite guess, like when we grew up on election day, what the result was, or the next day. But the thing is that yes, this might be overturned by the state Supreme Court. There was a lower court opinion that did say it couldn't go on the ballot. They tried to get the Supreme Court to rule on it prior to it getting on the ballot, and the Supreme Court said, "Yeah, we'll get back to it." And I think the court decision comes in a few days or whatever. So they said they weren't going to rule on it till after the election. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see what the makeup of that court is and what they might do. But there is a chance that it'll be overturned.
Well, and you know that the court, from their viewpoint, it makes perfect sense to wait until after the election, because if it fails, they don't have to do anything.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly, in my opinion, that's exactly why they did it. There's this aversion in courts to try to get involved in election processes. And in a sense, I'm fine with that. But the problem is that there actually are some causes of action related to what happens in our election process.
Sure.
And this goes back a little bit to the Bush v. Gore case in 2000, because what happened is I think George Bush truly won Florida, but you had this extended post-election counting period because it was such a close election. And what was really happening was the Palm Beach County clerk was trying to steal the election. If you really look at it, and in fact, she was later, that same lady later, I think she went to jail, but she was criminally charged, I think, for her actions as the clerk in Palm Beach County. So that was actually an important issue. There is a place for courts to get involved, and there are many times that they ought to. And this was one of them, because this process is not constitutional in Virginia.
Yeah.
That it was not an acceptable approach to this. So, and I had some people arguing with me. In fact, actually, I had an Indiana state legislator who I helped get elected in the 90s, but voted against Indiana's redistricting plan. And I had been trying to contact him for a long, long time. He finally calls me out of the blue this week, and I read him the Riot Act. Because I'm saying, they were all upset that Donald Trump, was trying to push this. And I'm like, guys, do you not understand? Illinois is the most gerrymandered state in the country. California was already pretty gerrymandered until it's further gerrymandered coming up. And New York State was too. Like, the Democrats have been gerrymandering these states much worse than Republicans. Not that Republicans haven't. But for some years now, this was a serious issue that Donald Trump was right to tell people in the legislature in Republican states to do something about. And so the back end of this is going to be Florida is apparently going to have their special session, and they're going to be urgently doing it to change their maps around. And you might get one or two others, but we're about at the end of the process, and now there are 4 more seats coming out of Virginia. But
they're so close now. I mean, they may be weighted towards Democrats, but not by 10%. I mean, it's not definite going to be Democrat winners in those counties.
No, that's for sure. But actually, when you do look at the maps, they're pretty B. It's been a while since I looked at the maps, and I should have prior to this, but I think that you got a lot of 3 to 5% Democrat districts. And that can be hard to overcome in a certain political environment. And right now, Republicans nationally aren't doing anything to try to make that environment positive, when all the Democrats are doing is saying they stand for impeaching Donald Trump and stopping ICE, neither of which are necessarily all that popular with Americans. And gives no vision for the future, whereas Republicans are sitting on their hands, not really wanting to do anything at all. It's a very frustrating situation.
Well, except for President Trump, who's doing a lot.
Well, yeah, but Trump's done a whole lot. But by the way, are you aware that the RNC is sitting on about $109 million of cash right now? The DNC, the Democrat Party, I think hasn't even broken 50 million. I think they're in the 30 million range, maybe at best. And they didn't expend any of their own money on this when it really matters from a national perspective. The RNC didn't even get in on this. And then
Yes.
they spent a whole bunch of money on John Cornyn.
Very disappointing.
Yeah, it is. I do want to talk about the DHS ICE director, and it was suggested that we do that. Is that a positive change for us, or is there trying to change the image?
I will say this. I think Mark Wayne Mullen is going to be able to do a competent job there. The reason I say that is not so much about Mark Wayne Mullen and a whole lot more about the fact that when Kristi Noem, who was totally incompetent for that job, got it, DHS was doing a pretty darn good job because you got guys like Tom Homan, and he's not the only one,
Right.
and others that are highly competent and know what to do as it relates to DHS. Now, there's more than just ICE and Border Patrol, and Tom Homan is involved with mostly that end of the DHS. But still, you've got competent people who can run it. Mark Wayne Mullen, though, is a problem. You know, I was talking to a former member of Congress when he was nominated, and of course, he has a very famed problem with anger. It's a very real one. And he can fly off the handle. But if he'll just put his nose down and stay out of the media, except when absolutely necessary to answer things, and just do his job, well, then, it could turn out well.
Well, they haven't been in the headlines as much as when they were very active in Minnesota, and daily they were being attacked by anti-ICE people. It's been kind of quiet. There hasn't been a ton amount, but the Democrats are still running anti-ICE like they're the dredges of society or something.
Well, and Mark Wayne Mullen's only been in there for a few weeks now. Most of what's happened to fix all that is because Tom Homan went up there and fixed the problem. And I do want ICE to be aggressive enough to remove illegals, particularly criminal illegals, from the streets. And that aggressiveness has been necessary. But overall, you need good leadership at the top to not be chaotic. And you need guys who are tough, but thoughtful and understand how to do it, like Tom Homan doing it. I'm going to praise Tom Homan as far as I can go. The man is just amazing. And he's a great leader. He's a great American. And he served this under Democrat and Republican presidents in a highly effective way. He got the Presidential Medal of Freedom, I think, from Barack Obama. So the guy is very, very capable. In fact, I wish that he had been DHS director. I don't think he wanted to. He's here to fix the border problem. I'm part of a coalition of organizations that says we need to get rid of every person who's here illegally. I strongly believe that needs to happen. I think that we have to do that in proper ways, but not the ways Democrats talk about. They want these illegals to have full rights under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and go into the same courts. You can't do that, one, with people who are here illegally, and two, they have no right to that. The process is very clear, and the warrants can be issued by the DOJ directly for every person. The court system they go through is really just, basically an arbitration style committee. Are you here legally or not? Pretty much is what they go through, and you're out. And they can do that from the bench as well, too. It doesn't have to be a hearing. There are certain circumstances in law where a hearing is necessary. But we need to go through that process. We need to have these people extracted from this country. And then they can try in the right way later on if they want. Because certainly many of them are working hard and they're just trying to do something for their family. But they're here illegally.
Correct.
And we've got the rule of law is at stake if we're not going to treat them in the manner that the current law requires.
I never hear the left make any indication they want to change the laws. They just want to change how we enforce them.
Oh, I see lots of indication they want to change the laws. Just
they
an
definitely
amnesty.
would if they. Yeah, go ahead.
I said amnesty is a big change in law.
It is, and they want amnesty. They want these people here. I mean, the whole great replacement theory thing is quite real. That's exactly what Democrats have been attempting to do. And this is a problem because Democrats in general, in the 1990s, with the rise of the religious right and the strengthening of the Republican Party, a lot of people forget prior to 1994, Democrats controlled Congress for 40 straight years,
Yeah,
except for
yeah.
2 legislative sessions. And Republicans, on one occasion for 2 years, controlled Congress, and on the other occasion, during the Reagan administration, we had a Republican Senate after the 1980 elections and a Democrat House. So they ran the show from FDR on, and then it all changed, and they were backpedaling because they did not offer a real vision for that voters could grab onto, and they had gone so far to the left by comparison to that time. They're much further now. That the American people were beginning to reject them. So their course of action wasn't to say, "Hey, we need to be more American in our approach. We need to refigure what we're doing." They just got more radicalized over time. And then by the time Barack Obama got elected, the radicalization got set in to the federal government in a serious way.
All that's true. And I think that the left theoreticians before 1994 were making lots of statements to the effect of the Republicans can never control the House because of the demographics. Just can't happen. And then they were proved wrong, and so they had to change their tactics, and they became much more radical, especially the media.
Well, and again, just you're absolutely right, first of all, but about the construction of what you just discussed there. None of that had anything to do with how do we do America better?
Right.
How do we follow the Constitution and still get the things that we think? JFK, he was wrong. I mean, I totally disagreed with him on a lot of things when you really look back at his policies. But the guy was a patriot and an American. He believed in the American ideal. He had a different English on the ball than I would have had, but he actually did have American English on the ball in so many ways. And there's no way, if you just picked him up from 1960 and dropped him into 2026, there's no way he would be accepted.
No, he'd be a Republican.
Party. He would be. In fact, as liberal as he was for the time, and I judge him to be a liberal in ways that I disagree with, the Republican Party establishment is further to the left than JFK was in many issues.
Oh, yeah. And what I would say is that around that time, I put it about 65, you had this huge change on the left from a very pro-American viewpoint to a more globalist or America's bad. And of course, all the protests during Vietnam assumed that.
Well, but there's another thing that was happening too. Democrats, even back as far back as then. Actually, the whole Democrat Party has been this way in one way or another. But Lyndon Johnson promoted the Great Society programs precisely because he wanted to get votes. I mean, that's literally what he was doing. And
right.
There's plenty of his recordings that either imply it or show it very directly.
No question.
And that was the case.
Yep.
So he was promoting and FDR was really this way too. If you go further back, he was trying to keep votes as well by throwing out government largesse to people and letting them know that everyone, the big guy was screwing them, so we got to take him down, which is essentially in that age a socialist ideal. But when you come fast forward to now, as Democrats have found out since that they can't consistently keep power without rigging something, whatever that might be, now we're in a place where they stand for nothing, and they're a Maoist communist party because they have a lust for power. And the only way to get that power is to censor people, is to impose cultural idealism through government action, ESG, DEI, all these sorts of things. That's their only way to maintain power. It is not about giving freedom to Americans as it exists in the Constitution, and certainly not the Bill of Rights. They'll give lip service to the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, well, that's kind of built into their DNA the way they are, but it wouldn't have to be that way. I think Fetterman has at least says an approach that could be the opposite. And I've argued for years that if the Democrats wanted to win elections, come out in favor of the Second Amendment or, practical pursuit of this. But they won't do that because it's so built into their internal ideology. They can't reject that. their
Well, and-
lust for power in that way.
Well, and that's the thing. See, their internal ideology is a government-centric one.
Yep.
It is not an individual liberty one.
Exactly.
And the First Amendment and the Second Amendment make government power hard.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Yeah, that's the problem. And the core of this is we truly have been fighting in this country for some time over what the definition of liberty is.
Right.
And what the construct of government ought to be. And the initially fascist, because Woodrow Wilson adored fascism. Later on, Democrats promoted that in a sincere way in the 1920s. And then it went into a kind of a socialist, quasi-socialist approach under FDR. He promoted unions, not just in the country at large, which he did, and many of the pro-union laws are on the books through FDR's administration, but also he promoted it with unions in government. We did not have unions in government prior to the FDR administration.
I thought
And that
FDR
has
was
been a real
against.
problem
He
too.
was.
I thought FDR was against unions for government workers.
I think he promoted them, actually.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, you look at the policies on labor during the FDR administration, they were super pro-union. I mean, incredibly so. Unions are exempt from all kinds of laws that apply to everybody else. I just had read that he said it was a bad idea to have unions for government workers.
Yeah, well, I need to relook at that because my understanding is just the opposite. So,
Okay, well, we'll look. I'll look too.
Yeah,
I want to.
that's when it got ensconced. I mean, that now prior to FDR, Woodrow Wilson is the one who instituted a more bureaucratic system of government as opposed to a system that required some obedience to the American people. And he is the one who built out the bureaucrat class.
Oh, yeah.
In our government.
Absolutely.
He, in fact, is very famously said that we go to elections too often. I'm paraphrasing.
Well, he was dogmatic. He was
the way.
Theorist for the progressive movement. He essentially wrote the book on progressivism, and then he put it into practice when he became president. And progressivism is essentially an ideology that says you can never have too much government because government does all these good things. So a limit on government is a terrible thing.
And Teddy Roosevelt began that process. But, it's actually, there's a more fundamental aspect. What you said is accurate, but there's something more fundamental here. It also, progressivism is rooted in the belief that man is perfectible and that man is not accountable to God. Now, there would have been progressives who came from a Christian viewpoint back then and would have asserted it and said it aligned with that. And it didn't. It is really a godless philosophy.
Absolutely.
You guys have heard me say often, 6,000 years of recorded history proves the moral depravity of mankind. There's a reason I say that, because we have to understand that every government, whatever they do, good, bad, or indifferent, is accountable to God. The founding fathers knew that, even the non-Christians among them, like even Thomas Paine, who I think claimed to be an atheist, and asserted that in his book Common Sense, really actually fundamentally believed that the Judeo-Christian scriptures were useful for moral teaching. Like he rejected religion and he rejected Christianity because he hated the religious systems around Christianity that he despised. By the way, possibly with some good reason in certain instances, but he went so far as to say that he was disgusted by Christian culture and the way it acted, but he revered moral teaching. And he's the most extreme example. Generally, the founding fathers knew we are accountable to God. We're going to build a system that honors and respects the fact that we have to do it right and that we have to uphold individual liberty, not just because we believe it conceptually, as Locke and Montesquieu did, but we believe that the fundamental tenets of liberty are those things which are endowed to us by our Creator.
Absolutely.
And Thomas Jefferson, who was probably a confirmed deist, but certainly more positive towards Christianity than Thomas Paine. I mean, he purposefully put that in there. He'd have used stronger language if he could, and I think Franklin kind of massaged it just a little bit on the edit, because Franklin and Adams and Jefferson were on the committee to put that document together. But it's basically Jefferson's document, and look at what it does as it relates to the necessity of governments to do what's right because God will judge nations.
Yes,
progressivism rejects that wholesale.
Absolutely. And you see that huge change right about 1900 when progressivism is on the huge rise. It really started in the 1880s. And you see this change in literature and everywhere, from a Christian-based viewpoint of the world to a humanist, shall we say it. Secular humanism starts to rise and take over in literature everywhere. Christianity is now treated as not important or just wrong or a fable or supernatural idiocy. I mean, you just see it.
Well,
it's there.
Well, it's true, and humanism is actually I will say there are serious philosophers who have made this point. Humanism is an absurd ideology because it draws upon moral and ethical tenets that are clearly of the Christian West.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I call it coasting on the Christian culture.
That's right. And true humanism, if you study it from an ideological and philosophical perspective, it's inconsistent with those moral teachings that it is often asserted. But keep in mind, we're not dealing with that kind of secular humanism. Your assertion is correct. I'm not saying denying it in terms of the timing of secular humanism kind of coming in, which really had its greatest push through Marx and Engels and further back to Hegel into Western culture.
I'd say Darwin had a big part.
Yeah, well, Darwin's a contemporary of Marx.
Them,
but
right.
what I'm saying is, but Darwin wasn't a philosophical construct. It was a scientific.
You're
effort.
correct. But what I'm saying, Darwin gives people a hook to where they can say God is not real or there isn't any God. He gives them an alternate perspective.
Oh, I totally agree with you. But that hook is into a Hegelian construct.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So the point I'm making is that we got into a radical humanism as far back as Hegel through Marx, and I agree with the hook that Darwin provides, but then into progressivism in the West. All of that comes through here, and that's what we have been dealing with for most of modern American history.
Yeah, absolutely.
The problem is we're not dealing with secular humanism by and large anymore.
Yes, it's gotten a lot worse.
It's an all-out neo-paganism.
Yes,
because here's what modern Democrats and progressives demand. They demand an obedience and worship to the government that is very similar to what the Roman government required of Christians in the early years of the church. And keep in mind, a large portion of that time, from the beginning of the church all the way through Constantine, many of those 3 centuries, almost 4 centuries, were filled with violent action against the Christian faith. And if you go back to the Christian theologian Justin Martyr, a first and second century theologian, he was appealing to Rome, saying, "Listen, we follow the laws. We scrupulously think we should follow the laws on a Romans 13 basis, but we will not say Kaiser Kurios. Caesar is Lord. We say Jesus is Lord." Yeah. That's the one thing we will not do. And it was on that dichotomy that the violence broke out. Now, we have not yet had that kind of violent persecution in the West.
Well,
I can tell you that there's a lot of sentiment that wants to go there. And if you look at the Biden administration, that was the beginning of that setup. Yeah. You had censorship. You had you got things like laws in California and other places that just got struck down by the Supreme Court, Colorado too, where you can't do, you can't psychologically encourage someone to go, for example, go out of homosexuality or transgenderism. There were laws on the books that made that illegal. This is right on the cusp, and I'm not saying imminently, but this is right on the cusp of a shift from mere cultural fighting over paganism versus the concepts of the Judeo-Christian West and violent efforts to take that down, jailings,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
maybe even worse violence.
All right, Jim,
And
I'm
when
go-
you look at the violent protests on the street in the last couple of years, you can see where it's going.
Jim, I want to change the subject a little bit. I want to, because I wanted to cover a few of these things that was suggestive. Is sex scandals in Congress. I know, I think there's a big history on that too, but it seems to be popping up right now, especially with
Well,
Swalwell and people resigning.
Well, it is popping up, and this is something I've kind of been a little bit in the middle of, because when I was working for Tim Huelskamp as his chief of staff, he is a former Kansas congressman, right in the Tea Party wave. He had told me, you're going to turn back $200,000 from our budget to the Treasury, or I'll fire you. It was kind of one of those things. He was serious about it because he wanted to make a fiscal responsibility point. We found out a couple of years in that money wasn't going to the Treasury at all. It was just staying in Congress. It was appropriated by Congress, so it stayed in Congress. And there is a slush fund available to give money to people who were sexually assaulted by members of Congress. And there was a CNN report in 2017, after we had found some of this out, that showed that there was $17 million that up to that time this century had been paid out, or at least so they found. I think it's more money than that had been paid out in sexual abuse and sexual harassment claims.
Well, I guess I misunderstood that.
And,
then. Yeah, I thought that fund was to cover lawsuits for representatives or senators that were accused of sexual problems.
What they're saying is the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, there have been members who have paid this money out of what's called the MRA, the Members Representational Allowance, the budget that's given to each congressional office, Senate and House.
Okay.
So some of that money's been coming out of that, but there's also a slush fund there that's been doing this. So
we can't just assume that all of these allegations are correct. Some of them may.
I think you can. Think you can assume the majority of them are
okay.
correct.
Well,
here's the thing.
Fair.
But here's the thing: most of these allegations aren't even aired out in public because they're dealt with privately.
Oh, exactly. That's the whole purpose of the fund, is to keep it private.
We know for a fact that there were non-disclosure agreements signed and money paid as compensation to someone who was harmed by radical sexual behavior. Here's why it doesn't come out. It's usually some male congressman towards some female congressman, one, or female staffer, one. Two, that congressman has a bully pulpit that they can use to totally put down the allegations that come against them, most of which would be true. And three, there's an intimidation factor there. I mean, you could be really intimidated as a staffer, particularly a lower level staffer, by some congressman and what they might want to do.
Oh, absolutely.
This is a serious problem. I think it's much worse of a problem than the Epstein files. I think it's more significant in some ways than the Epstein files, although there are significant things about it as well. Particularly when you look at things like the CIA or Mossad or whatever being involved in all that. And that's all serious. But really, you've got the people making laws and the American people unable to decide if they want to keep that member in Congress when they've committed sexual impropriety or sexual crimes because they don't know about it. And here's the worst part of it. Everything that these members spend for these purposes to deal with these circumstances, there's no information that can come out on it. It can't be subpoenaed because of the way it's structured, because of separation of powers, and the rules and debates clause of the Constitution, or that the debate clause of the Constitution says that you can't go get the papers of members of Congress under criminal authority or under indictment. You can't do it. So it's hidden and it needs to be exposed. There was a vote recently to expose all this information. and only 85 members of Congress voted to do it.
Oh,
And
really?
it needs to be exposed.
Yeah, it's hard. If you're a member of Congress, this is a kind of a protection now. And I don't know if it's entirely
But-
that everybody is involved, or just because there are many false allegations that come out too. We saw that against
Sure.
Trump.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. But consider this for a moment. What are all the motivations for voting against this? There are a few, not all one. One is, if I ever had some allegation come at me falsely, I don't want it exposed. Okay, you've got that. You got that motivation. But there are a couple other motivations. There's the motivation that I don't want my information exposed. And I guarantee you,
Oh yeah.
there are at least a dozen and probably more members of Congress who voted against that, who have real allegations against them.
Oh, I agree.
It's that
Sure.
bad, in my opinion.
We-
But here's the third one. My friend who has these things coming up against them, even if they're right. Look at what Ruben Gallegos did.
Yeah.
He said, I had no idea about Eric Swalwell. Well, we're apparently going to find out that he was actually in on the gig. So that is the real corruption of this. And yes,
there
I
is.
grant
There's
there
no
are going to be
question.
false allegations. But listen, these offices are very political. There's no doubt that you're going to, and by the way, there are Republicans and Democrats involved with this. This is not just a Democrat thing. Tony Gonzalez being the most prominent example right now.
Right.
But you're going to get that in a Republican office. But you typically are going to have, the partisanship in the offices. You don't hire Democrat staffers if you're a Republican member of Congress. Is going to, for generally good members, is going to reduce the amount of false claims coming. Not that they couldn't come. Human nature is pretty bad, and it can come. But this is why I contend most of them are probably very real allegations of real things that happened.
There's more going on than just the sexual thing, though. I mean, and it looks like representatives are outing each other. I mean, the Democrats outed Swalwell. They were done with him,
I think they had
Well,
good political
of
reasons
course.
for that.
of course. But
Yes.
but now we've got what's this McCormick
Yeah.
that's out there, and I guess
she's been in
taking
hot
money.
water for a while.
And Nancy Pelosi was asked about it, and of course she shifted real quickly. That she doesn't like her. She thinks a quick expulsion, and then we should go after Corey Mills. So it looks like politically they want to they're going after each other now to get him out of office. Like it seems to be somewhat effective.
Well, listen, there have been some good things about Corey Mills from a political perspective in terms of conservatism, but the situation with him seems very real and very problematic.
Oh, okay.
And that's the thing. We cannot try to be over nice for political reasons. These are serious issues, and there's a lot of sexual misbehavior that takes place in Washington, D.C. I've either seen it, I've never participated in it, by the way, because I love my wife.
That's what
And I
Ruben
have
said.
an
yeah.
amazing woman who is just really good to me. But we knew, for example, that McCarthy was involved with Renee Elmers, a former congressman from North Carolina, who preceded Mark Meadows. That was happening. That was confirmed. I know it's confirmed because I know specifically how it was confirmed.
Uh-oh.
And I'm just saying that these problems are there. They should not be happening. Part of the reason they're so bad is these people spend all their time in Washington, D.C. away from home and sometimes away from their families. And there's temptation related to that if one is inclined to be tempted. Listen, the whole construct of what Washington, D.C. does has really been twisted. I mean, we've gone so far away from rational activity in Washington, D.C. Even if we have bad politics that we don't like, the whole thing is corrupt at its core. And as Tim Burchett has been saying, I worked for Thomas Massey, and he always pushed the drain the swamp thing. But as Tim Burchett said, no, this isn't a swamp; it's a sewer. And I would have to agree with that. It really is.
Trump's poll numbers are they still solid, or are we still? Is he chiseling away at some of his positive numbers?
When I am evaluating what the American people think of any president, in terms of favorability, just on that favorability number, I look to Rasmussen reports for two reasons.
Okay.
One, they're a pretty accurate pollster, and they're willing to take on Republicans if they have to. two, but it's conservative. You know, I know the people over there. I think they're conservative, but they're willing to take on Republicans. But the second reason is they do it every single day. They have a poll out every single day it's a running total, and a lot of these other polls that say that Donald Trump only has a 35% approval rating. Well, first of all, they tend to be skewed. There are a lot of skewed pollsters out there. But secondly, they only do this every once in a while. So Rasmussen has him in the mid to upper 40s in favorability. It's not awesome, but it's also not horrible compared to other presidents on that same Rasmussen poll.
Right.
They've been very consistent in their methodology, and I think that that's the one you look at. Now, that having been said, the American people are genuinely concerned about a few things. Partly the Iran war. I think the American people would like it to be over, although I think they're relatively positive about it right now. I mean, relatively speaking, at least they're not angry about it like they were the Iraq war, because I think they see that there's going to be an end to this and that Donald Trump's going to bring an end. But nonetheless, it is a tension because in combination with that is the amount of money they're paying for gas. And I think that that's all survivable. I just don't know if things are going to turn around enough for Republicans to keep the House in particular in November, because also Republicans aren't doing a whole lot.
Yeah, but he is down. But I did see the comparison between where Biden was or Obama or Clinton, and he is doing slightly better than that.
Yeah.
But the people that he's compared against lost big time in the midterms.
Well, I mean, the midterms thing is always a problem.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a dynamic.
Yeah.
And the American people don't like unified government historically. They're not into unified government. Let's just be honest about it. Not necessarily as a principle, but they just always do that. There is a tendency away from that. But, you know, in this particular case, the biggest reason that Republicans are on a trajectory to lose in November, I'm not saying they are going to lose in November, but they are on that trajectory right now. I think the core value of that is that the thing that most impressed people with Donald Trump is he wasn't going to go to war. That wasn't the biggest one. The biggest one was that he was going to screw it to the government. And he actually has done much of that. But the fallout of the Doge thing and the positive effectiveness of Democrats who funded the vandalism in Tesla dealerships, that honestly was part of the reason eventually that Elon Musk had to pull away from it precipitously, because he had quite a few months left in the temporary position he was in. That frustrates people. They don't see enough cutting of spending. The reporting is out there that we still have heavy deficits, and it's because Republicans haven't cut spending. The One Big Beautiful Bill did a lot of great things, but it didn't do anything about spending. And Republicans are on this thing. Well, we'll just cut taxes and who cares about spending? Well, I don't believe that when you cut taxes, it makes those deficits worse. It's the spending that makes the deficits worse, right? Because revenues go up in our current tax structure every time you cut it. So that misstep, that dullness, if I might put it that way, of Republicans to understand what the American people want is what will take them down. Because again, Democrats, they don't even offer anything they'd like to do except to get rid of Donald Trump.
Seems to be it. Iran, how much of a problem is that for Trump? And do you see any way out of this in short order?
Well, the White House just announced that this extension of the ceasefire was not indefinite. It was for about 3 to 5 days. So I think that there is an end coming to this. I think Donald Trump is going to end it. I think that he'll continue on keeping the Strait of Hormuz open once it gets back open, if there is some resolution, even if there's not a significant regime change away from the radicalism that exists there now. And I think he'll positively benefit from it if it turns out that way. I can't predict well enough how it will turn out, but I do have some sense in me that it probably is going to turn out pretty well. And I can guarantee you, if oil prices start going down, and then after that, gas prices start going down, you're going to see the American people breathe a collective sigh of relief. And then we're going to be back talking about domestic issues. And then this is where Republicans are weak, and they could win if they did something about it. But that's where we're at. I think the Save America Act is existential. I think if this idiot John Thune would just take the time to work through this and make sure the Save America Act gets passed, I think the American people would appreciate it very much, and I think they would reward him at the polls.
Very popular.
Yeah, but it's got a low probability of passing at this point.
Oh, well, I don't know. How do you measure that probability?
Well, you look at the betting, the bets on it.
Well, that's and then people look at that are interested in money, so that makes sense. But I think if we see a positive end to the Iranian conflict, which I think we got the correct way to look at it, I think it's very likely to happen, and very likely oil prices will go down, and very likely gas prices will go down. But I think that also frees up the Trump administration to put more pressure on John Thune.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot.
Let's hope he does, because John Thune is pretty dead set against not doing it. And keep in mind, what's the motivation there?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out.
The current way we do elections doesn't harm the guys that are going to come back and that are in leadership. They're in states where they're going to win. Why do they have to get on top of it?
The question is, why doesn't he want to do it? Why is he against it?
Well, because there is a muscle memory in the Senate in particular, but Congress in general for Republicans to just, keep your nose down, don't make waves. Every once in a while, it's normal. There are normal cycles. You lose the majority, but if you just keep your nose down and don't be too controversial, you won't make that happen precipitously.
Well, it sounds like it's a pretty
in politics.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess. I mean, it's pretty controversial for him to oppose it with 80% of the population.
He doesn't oppose it directly.
In favor of it.
It doesn't matter if it's 80% of the population. They're going to get reelected.
Well, sure. I understand
reelected.
that, but I'm talking to your argument about just the momentum from past years. Keep your head down. You don't have to worry about that.
Well, this was the Mitch McConnell way of doing business.
Right.
This is why you could never get anything done with Mitch McConnell as majority leader, because he didn't want to do anything. He cared about the judges, and one can argue his effectiveness on that, probably mostly effective. But that's all he cared about. The rest of it he didn't give a flip about. I mean, I can't tell you how many times when I was working for Thomas, when we go into that monthly Kentucky meeting that was in Mitch McConnell's office, and Mitch McConnell walks in fashionably late and then turns to everyone and then to Thomas and doesn't say a word before he sees Thomas and says, "Well, Thomas, did you vote for anything recently?" It's just like that's the attitude. And that attitude prevails. I mean, he obviously remained majority leader, and most of the people who were in the Senate on the Republican side when he's majority leader are still there. And so you get unless you change things, you get the same thing.
I do want one prediction from you, if you could. If the Democrats win the House, how many times can Trump be impeached in 2 years?
As many times as Democrats want to do it, because they don't even use a process. Yeah. They're just going to vote on it. Thing is, what will the Senate do? And I don't think the Senate will do anything, because I also, even though there are people saying that the Republican senators who truly are trying to undermine the Trump agenda, I mean, that's a real thing. But I don't know that they have I don't think they have it in them to want to actually impeach him and get him out of there, because I don't think they have any greater positive sentiment for J.D. Vance than they do for Donald Trump.
Wow.
So they'll just try to ride it out, and they won't do anything.
Jim, I appreciate all your time. And that's Jim Pfaff with the Conservative Caucus. And that is your website also, The Conservative Caucus.
Yeah, theconservativecaucus.com.
Yeah, I appreciate all your time, sir.
Yeah, anytime. By the way, I want to leave you with this. Keep in mind, did you see the SPLC?
I
the
saw
Southern
that.
Poverty Law Center.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Listen, watch for this stuff. Everyone was saying, well, Todd Blanche used to be a Democrat, and so that's why he's holding things back. He's really undermining Pam Bondi. I don't know. I'm still watching. I'm still trying to be cautious about it. But so far, it seems just the opposite. I think Pam Bondi was stopping him. Watch those things, because that's going to be really important going into November, depending on how it plays out.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, I was reading that this morning, but interesting.
The idea that the SPLC is propping up white supremacist groups so they have somebody to complain about is just rich.
Right.
Even worse, that they claim they have evidence that they were funding the people who did the Charlottesville
Yes.
riots.
Those are big accusations.
And then they raised millions of dollars. They raised millions of dollars on the back end of that.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a conspiracy. It's as bad as we thought it was, maybe a little worse. And we'll see how that plays out. That is going to be a factor if it becomes big news. Now, the regular media is going to try to not make it big news, but so far they're not able to shut this down. It's being talked about. So we'll see what happens.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
Y'all take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. Of course, that was Jim Pfaff.
Yeah, I think he's got it pretty much hit it right. Very little I disagree with him on it.
He's a thinker.
Yeah,
but he's been playing the game a long time.
He has, and he has got access to these wonderful sources and inside the Beltway.
Amazingly, and the two of you went into the history for 25 minutes. But
Well,
that was it was interesting. He's very much
well, he obviously
a historian. As much
he
as
has he's analyzed this pretty well, and I think our emphasis on what happened with who might be slightly different, but not a whole lot.
Well, you mentioned the FDR on the unions.
Right.
He was very much opposed to public unions,
That's what I thought.
but very, very positive on private unions.
Yeah,
very,
well,
passed
absolutely.
laws for that.
Jim said he's going to check that out. So
Yeah, well, I did it while you guys were on air. It was, at least my artificial intelligence, and it can't be wrong.
So
it
you're
told me-
saying your artificial intelligence agreed with me?
correct?
Oh well.
Correct. Well, but
I
that's
guess artificial intelligence can't be wrong all the time.
but that's the way I always understood it. I always understood because I've used that before by talking to some of the
there's
unions.
a strong quote out there by FDR saying, no, you should never have government unions.
Yeah, they because they don't operate like private business.
FDR lied a lot too. So, one quote may not be very definitive proof.
And since he mentions the Southern Poverty
Law
Center, I did read that this morning and was kind of shocked by it. It was a surprise to me. Now they're a very liberal group and very
Morris Dees is the person who founded it. He's gotten very, very rich off of it.
well. There has to be money coming from somewhere because they spend a lot.
Because they found this. It's sort of like the leftist version of the NRA.
Yeah.
I've talked to or remember people saying who were in the NRA administration before it was exposed and before real reform came about 2 years ago. It's the greatest funding organization on earth. Well, the SPLC is kind of like the greatest funding organization on the left. You can get all kinds of people to send you money if you say, we're stopping the evil white supremacists from destroying everything. We got to stop the Nazis. They're out to get you, that kind of thing. So it's based on fear, which is a real good fundraising motivator. And, but it's really, in my opinion, a very scummy group, and their motivations and the character of the founder are really not great.
They're going to call you a racist.
Of
that
course.
is their normal
They're going to call me a racist no matter what. So it doesn't matter.
But the Attorney General Tom Blanche has said a federal indictment to the Southern Poverty Law Center was not politically motivated, which is what they're saying. But
well, I'd say this investigation has probably been going on for months. So it probably was started under Pam Bondi.
Had to be. He couldn't have done it this fast by himself. They were indicted on Tuesday on fraud charges. That was yesterday. And it's accusing of funneling millions of dollars to pay informants to infiltrate extremist groups like the KKK, which I would think you could pay informants to find out, but it was more than that. They were paying people that were in the KKK doing bad actions.
Well, right. I mean,
lots of money and calling them informants.
Yeah.
And
I'll go back to my experience during the Vietnam War protests. And the general mood and belief of the people was that if there was somebody calling for illegal action, that was probably the federal agent.
Okay.
And so we have the opposite, a different thing here, but the same idea.
I mean, it's not a federal agency. It's a Southern Poverty Law Center.
Southern Poverty Law Center. So
it's a separate entity that comes to the aid of a lot of racist type stuff.
But it's like if you don't have enough white supremacy, you make some.
Well, that's what it sounds like they were doing.
Yeah.
They and,
Yes.
they and they ended up paying these guys like $3 million
A significant
over
amount
this
of money,
time frame
right?
to be in the KKK.
Yeah.
And during that time, the people they were paying actually participated in or designed the 2017 rally in Charlottesville that turned deadly.
Well, right. And this is a real problem when anytime you have undercover agents is to prove their bona fides,
Yeah.
they very often engage in the more extreme activism. And then you have a problem. Well, are you creating more of a problem than you're solving? And I think for the Southern Poverty Law Center, they had a lot of incentive to create problems so they could get fundraising.
You know, anytime you start suing these guys that are law centers, legal centers, you know, and they have lawyers, you generally have to have your stuff together before you do that. You know, you're not suing individuals.
I don't know how much. I mean, there have been a lot of lawsuits funded by the SPLC.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if they have lawyers on staff or they hire people. I really don't know that.
Don't know, but right now they're up against some serious charges that
Yeah,
include
well-
wire fraud, false statements to a bank, conspiracy to commit money laundering.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I knew that they had huge offshore bank accounts.
Now, the SPLC, in this article, it says it uses litigation to fight white supremacy and dismantle extremist groups performed counter to its mission. The very entities that this group was raising money to go against are the very entities that they were taking the money in and paying to the entities that these individuals associated with these groups. So they were just funneling money back in to keep the KKK.
Well, you know, like I said, if you don't have enough white supremacists, you make
Yeah, you
some.
make white supremacists. And the Attorney General Blanche, he claims the SPLC funded informants helped initiate the deadly KKK rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. So he's putting that on him. He says, well,
That's a pretty serious charge. And he's
Yeah.
putting it right out front. So I think they have evidence.
he says, what we allege in the indictment and what the grand jury found is that one of the individuals that they paid was one of the folks who helped organize that terrible event. They were part of it.
Yeah.
And then they didn't alert law enforcement about the funding of informants.
Yeah.
They didn't tell them that something was
Right.
going on.
And it's, you know, I don't know. The grand jury thought that there was something there, significant amount, enough for them to be charged with a crime. But it's always, you know, a little iffy how much you control an informant.
Of course, the current CEO, Brian Fair, you know, he says it's legitimate to pay informants to find out about that kind of stuff. Dangerous organizations and all that. And I guess so. I know the government does that. You know, they'll put people in the KKK at one time.
Yeah, you're dealing in this house of mirrors and shadows, intelligence stuff. It's it's really hard to figure out all the motivations and who's doing what to who when.
But he claims that the group is being targeted by the Trump administration and expressed outrage over the false accusations from the Justice Department. Of course he did.
Yeah,
And
of course he's gonna say that.
the actions by the DOJ will not shake our resolve to fight for justice, ensure the promise of the civil rights movements becomes a reality for all. Sounds like
Yeah, man, they've been doing that for what, 50 years?
I was going to
40
say
years?
it's been our lifetime anyway.
Yeah, it's quite a long time.
Yeah.
As I said, Morris Dees has become very wealthy
Yeah.
from the contributions to the SPLC.
I was going to say they're kind of a nonprofit thing. They
Yeah, right.
they don't charge for their services in a lot of cases.
No, but they get money, and a lot of it ends up in offshore bank accounts. And like I said, Morris Dees is very well off. He also has a Well, I had read this. He had a reputation of being kind of a cheapskate and not treating his staff well.
Okay.
No, it's just
Well, it looks like this Todd Blanche, who's, he's just now the acting. He just took over for Bondi. So this had to be started under Bondi.
I'm sure it was. This is a major investigation. It
Yeah.
takes a long time to put everything together.
Sometimes too long. These guys take forever to
Well,
investigate stuff.
There was no investigation that I know of under previous administrations of the SPLC.
Yesterday, I guess, this Cheerfulness McCormick resigned from Congress.
Yeah, she's accused of taking a bunch of federal funding for emergencies
Yeah.
and using it to fund her campaign.
She faces a 15-count federal criminal indictment
All right.
carrying a maximum of 53 years in prison. Now, she said she was going to fight it. It's all wrong and all that stuff. But yesterday, she said she's resigning from the House of Representatives after Republicans vowed to force a vote to expel her from the chamber.
Right.
Which I guess has something to do with retirement benefits and everything too.
I don't know.
I think there's a difference.
There's a very significant possibility of that.
Yeah, there was the suggestion that's why Swalwell did it when he did, because he saw the writing on the wall, and at least I get retirement benefits. And
a lot of times people will resign if given a set of bad choices, but resigning is the least worst.
She said, rather than play these political games, I choose to step away so I can devote my time to fighting the neighbors in Florida's 20th district. I hereby resign from the 119th Congress effective immediately. This fight is far from over.
Okay, so it's effective immediately. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it said a grand jury last year alleged stealing COVID-19 emergency funds against her.
Yeah.
Apparently she was in, something going to her family and all that kind of stuff, which not a new gig. Democrats do that a lot.
No, there was a lot of that happening
within their own political action committees and stuff, which they hire their family to be security guards and all that stuff. And I think that's legit, but apparently
there's a line, you have to, I think with Swalwell, one of the things that was alleged is that he hired his own wife to babysit his own children. Okay.
Yeah, that's nice.
That was what I read. The article I read said that was across the line, that you weren't allowed to do that.
Yeah. But she's been investigated for some time.
Yeah.
Which she denied wrongdoing. It was a witch hunt, all the normal stuff. The ethics committee, Michael Guest, said the committee has worked diligently to investigate this matter. This was not a rush to judgment, as some would claim. It was a very deliberate process to gather information into allegations that were extremely serious and extremely complicated. He thanked committee staff Tuesday, who had worked for more than 2 years and reviewed tens of thousands of documents to probe Phyllis McCormick's alleged misconduct. She is the third lawmaker to resign in Congress in the past week.
Yeah. So
that's Swalwell and Gonzalez.
What I'm not quite clear on is, was she under investigation by the Department of Justice? Did she have?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So there was a grand jury, and you mentioned that.
But it was also Congress,
right?
From an ethics committee also.
Was she able to? It sounds like she's just cutting a deal with Congress. So I don't know if the deal includes any kind of a plea agreement with the Department of Justice or anything. Doesn't sound like it.
I doubt it based on this. I think that was just the Congress thing.
Yeah.
Now, she was running for re-election.
Right.
But she only raised $11,000.
Oh, ouch, that's
there was writing on the wall
for
there.
A congressional seat, yeah.
And she raised 11 in the first fundraising quarter. So that's all she got in was 11,000.
Yeah.
Usually they do a lot better than that. So obviously her contributors were dissatisfied.
Yeah. Now we had Congressman Gonzalez from the 23rd District in Texas, a Republican. He resigned too. And I think it was also immediately, he stopped campaigning for his second term. He dropped out of the primary. So we know that he was not second term, the next term. So he's not going to be representative from the 23rd District in the next Congress. But it sounds as if he dropped out of Congress altogether. He resigned. So there may be a special election called in Texas. We'll see. It's we're
so
only
late.
We're only a few months away from the regular election. So far, I have not seen the Texas governor put out a call for a new election. So we don't know when it'll happen.
It probably
if it
will.
does.
The congressman appeared to cave, according to this article, to the pressure of the wave of Democrats, said that they would expel her. Now, how many constitutes a wave?
Well, it doesn't take very many. 20 in the House would be a big wave for Democrats.
Yeah. Not Nancy Pelosi, the former speaker, but she's still active. Although she's not rerunning, she'll be out. She'll be termed out this year. She urged a quick expulsion of
when Pelosi's against you, well,
that's another on the wall.
That's a big deal.
She said, "Let's get this over with." And then she advocated for the swift removal of the embattled Representative Corey Mills, who's a Republican,
right?
Who's under, which I asked briefly from Jim
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, he's in real trouble. So apparently there's something else. There is something going on and he's accused of domestic violence incident.
Yeah.
Which I guess I didn't know that. I didn't know a lot about that.
Some people have cynically claimed that they like to have representatives who have problems so they can get rid of them when they want to.
Is that right? So you have a file on them.
That's true.
You have a file on them to push them to vote for certain things and everything.
You know, it's a common technique for intelligence agencies.
Yes.
To get dirt that they can then use as a pressure to get what they want.
Well, here's what Pelosi says about Corey Mills. These cases just being out there, they just make us look terrible. I think Pelosi made a lot of things look terrible.
I was going to say, it doesn't take much for Pelosi to look terrible.
No, she was not my favorite out there. But she was an iron fist, man. People listened to her.
She was
she
very
She
effective.
wielded a lot of power. Mike Johnson argued that the Ethics Committee's investigation into Mills should run its course before lawmakers consider punitive measures. I agree with that. Look, it took you 2 years from McCormick.
Right.
Now, Pelosi wants to fast track Mills.
Yeah. Well, it's not too surprising.
Well, he's a Republican.
Right.
Johnson says, I'm confident they're moving along as quickly as possible. And he says, and when members cooperate, which is my understanding is Representative Mills is cooperating, unlike Shifless McCormick, I would expect the outcome would be much sooner. He's very upset about some of the allegations that have been made. He says he wants to prove his innocence, and he has the opportunity to do that. So Johnson sees a difference. He's not saying he is or isn't.
No, right. Well, he's saying
he
we've got to follow the process. And I think this is a general distinction you see between Republicans and Democrats, or between the left and the right. The right wants, is very supportive and wants the rule of law, which means we follow the process. The left wants an outcome. We don't care about the process.
I think that's true from what I've seen.
I mean, it's just the way it is, and it's a huge difference that I think people should recognize. So if I were an independent, which I'm not, I would want the rule of law. I think that's really important because I want to know that if I do certain things, I'm not going to be prosecuted, and if I don't do certain things, I'm not going to be prosecuted.
Right.
But on the left, it's just, what have you done for us lately? It's like, if you fall out of favor, we're going to go after you.
But that makes sense just based on their own philosophy of equity and everything's,
And is essentially progressive philosophy too, I'd argue.
This was an interesting article to me this morning when I didn't see coming. The DOJ is pursuing criminal antitrust probes of meatpacking companies.
Oh, I'm not too surprised. I've heard some kind of ideas along this line because meatpacking in the U.S. is extremely concentrated. There's only a very few big packers that control something like 90%.
Well, there's 4 leading ones that are wrapped up in this thing.
What's also very highly concentrated, part of that whole system, are cattle feedlots. Cattle feedlots are controlled by just a couple of big names for the most of them.
Well, they're going after the meatpacking companies. Now, everyone knows that the price of meat is just ridiculously high.
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that.
Right. Yes, there are a lot of reasons. One of them is the cattle supplies at a 70-year low, which.
And a lot of this happened during the COVID stuff, and it takes a long time. You can't just get, a calf to the size where you're going to send them off to become meat.
But
it takes a while.
But
a year and a half.
Yeah, and it's going to take quite a while to build up the cattle supply.
Yes.
And that's what they're working on now, I guess, is, build up more, so it takes a few years to get that built up.
Right.
If they focus.
Now it's a lot faster with chickens or even pigs.
That's months. Yeah.
Yeah. And pigs may probably less than a year.
Yeah. So, but beef and veal prices have surged 12% over the last year. And before that, they were even more, but they're not coming down. Now, Trump claimed in November the beef companies were manipulating the purchase price of cattle they bought from ranchers while raising prices on customers.
Well, that's been a complaint.
Well, I've heard on many reports I've read that it's not the people that raise cattle that are cashing in on the big prices. It's the meat packing.
I remember when I had a chance, I would buy a half a beef directly from a rancher.
Oh, really?
And they had their own little butchering
You had a
facility.
big
and they said,
freezer.
yeah, a walk-in freezer, and they had the stainless steel tables and all the implements. And they said, well, part of this deal is you've got to come up and help us wrap the beef.
Did you do that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, you're
and
a
we had
hunter.
half a freezer full of beef, and you get tired of steaks after
You
a
get
while.
tired of it?
Yeah.
Well, you need to get back and do that again. The report noted that criminal antitrust cases typically focus on allegations related to the market collusion or price fixing. Now, Trump is blaming a majority of foreign-owned meat packers, and I didn't even think of these guys being foreign-owned. Not that it
Yeah.
makes a difference. I mean, if they're in collusion, they're in collusion. It's Tyson Foods, Cargill, JBS, and National Beef are the four leading companies operating in that portion of the U.S. market, with Tyson and Cargill both U.S. headquartered firms, while JBS and National Beef are from Brazil.
Yeah. Does it say how much of the market those four have?
No, but that's the only four they focused on. I didn't.
Yeah, I don't know, but
research
it's
that.
probably pretty significant. It might be 60, 50, 60, 70%. I don't know.
Beef prices have surged over the last year. Strong demand from customers. Still, even with the beef prices up,
Right.
there's still strong demand. Cattle industry is facing a shortage of cattle supply at its lowest, and the drought contributed to the decline of the power supply. And I don't know, but
As
I
an
guess
aside,
yeah.
the hunting for deer, elk, and such has become more popular.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as the beef prices have gone up.
That makes sense. But the grasslands in Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas are part of the Southeast. That's where the ranchers or herds, I guess, it's affected mostly. Ground beef prices are up 11%, and beef price for steaks have risen 15.2% over the last year.
Yeah, and they were
And
already up, like
they
you
were
said.
already high. Well, I'd be curious where this probe goes with this antitrust,
And
because there'd have to be collusion amongst the four.
well, yes, and that's you can look for that. There's a digital trail to everything now.
Yeah.
If you're smart, you don't put evidence of wrongdoing or even the potential of
But
evidence of wrongdoing on the internet
Yeah. And
or in an email. Emails forever.
yeah. So the Pope found out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the Pope deleted all his social media when he was made Pope,
Yeah, but it's out there
and
somewhere.
it come back, and Trump found it, and so he's been TDS before he
Yeah.
was Pope,
Yeah.
and that's come
Probably
out.
one of the reasons he was selected.
But I hope that fighting's over. We don't need that on any scale between the Pope and the Trump, and
no, I agree. It's just that
it hasn't been like Rosie O'Donnell or anything, but
Yeah.
it's just unnecessary.
well, it's not good.
No.
I'm not a big fan of the last two popes. So
Yeah, but normally they don't directly complain about presidential policy.
right.
That's not their norm. So it was kind of out of the blue that came up. I
Well.
thought that was kind of odd. Eating habits may trigger premature immune system aging. Now we need to know
Yeah.
this because we're premature old.
Yeah.
Already,
well,
yeah.
I don't know which study is this? There's a couple out there, I think.
This I don't know the name of the study, but it was a small study. But it's eating too much salt. Now,
Oh.
it's been linked to high blood pressure for a long time.
Yeah.
Most
but
any doctor who can have high blood pressure says give up salt. And
well, yeah. If you have it, but it's not. Salt doesn't necessarily cause it. It's a contributory factor, and it's if you have high blood pressure, salt may not be good for you.
But
Not
they-
that salt causes high blood pressure.
well, my cardiologist tells me that's what I need to do to control my high blood pressure.
Well, if you have high blood pressure, yeah.
Well, that and take another pill. But the study, and it's a preclinical study. It's not been peer reviewed yet.
Yeah.
It's published in the Journal of American Heart Association. It's identified biological chain reaction that links a salty diet to cardiovascular decay. And it was a University of South Alabama observed mice on a salt high diet experience rapid deterioration of their blood vessel function.
No, it's interesting.
After just 4 weeks of high sodium intake, the small arteries responsible for regulating blood flow lost their ability to relax. Now, I don't know what that does, but apparently they grew old, and they call it cellular senescence. Senescence,
Senescence, yeah.
a form of premature cellular aging in which the cells stop dividing and release a mix of inflammatory signals that can cause damage surrounding issues. to replicate the damage by exposing blood vessels cells directly to salt in a laboratory dish, but the cells didn't show any harmful effects in the laboratory dish. So they're still trying to figure it out. Salt isn't directly causing the damage to the vascular lining, but that the real culprit may be the body's own defensive mechanism. Now, they've tried using a drug called interleukin 16, which is it's a molecule called, and I forget what it does, but I think it was with cancer or something, but it acts as a messenger that instructs blood vessel cells to grow old before their time, according to the study. Once these cells age, they fail to produce nitric oxide, the essential gas that tells arteries to dilate and stay flexible. Well, when they tested it with this interlink 16, they found out the process could be reversed. Using it is a cancer medication, Navitoclax, which selectively clears out aged and dysfunctional cells. The researchers are able to restore normal blood vessel function in the salt-fed mice.
Interesting.
Yeah, so high salt does more than I got it. Helen, my wife, she likes salt, and I try to avoid it.
Well,
so I got to show her this article.
Well, the article I thought you might be talking about is a study that's been done, and I think they found that young women who ate healthy, so-called healthy food had higher rates of cancer.
I got that right here.
Okay.
Which it's eating high in fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
That they were getting, and this is the one that's not peer reviewed. The other one was.
Neither was the other one.
Yeah, this one's not peer reviewed. It was only 187 patients, but it's worth looking at. It's interesting to look at. But what they found was, and I said, fruits and vegetables, how could that be? Well, even though it's healthier than normal, it was because of pesticides.
Well,
they suspect.
That's their suspicion.
Yes.
But they did not necessarily find higher levels of pesticides in these women. They didn't ever claim that I saw.
No. But they did not. But
so they find a finding, which is really interesting, that young women who eat more of what they claim to be healthy, fruits and vegetables, have higher rates of cancer. Then they say, well, what could this be?
Well, and then we're talking lung cancer, specifically lung cancer.
Lung cancer, you're right. And they did not smoke.
And they weren't smokers. But they also found that agriculture workers that are exposed to the same pesticides tend to have higher rates also. So they look at that correlation also. There's a large subset of lung cancer patients whose disease is not caused by smoking. And this disease, this lung cancer, this type of cancer, whatever, is more common in non-smokers 50 and younger. So it's not the older population, especially women, despite the fact that smoking rates have been falling for decades.
Right. Yeah, I recall reading something about that.
These patients tend to have eaten much healthier diets before the diagnosis. See, that's so frustrating. These people are trying to stay healthy, they're eating right, and they get lung cancer. They don't smoke.
But correlation does not prove causation, and that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at a correlation.
Well,
I don't know. I mean, it could be something else.
There's some positives in here.
Maybe if you don't eat enough meat, it weakens your response to cancer. I don't know.
Well, the spokesman for the pesticide company, if I can find that. Okay, it says researchers did not test specific foods for pesticides. It's not the people. They didn't test the foods. Rely instead on average pesticide levels for certain types of food. So the patients weren't monitored for years to see whatever. And look, but my wife is very careful to wash. And not everyone does.
If you are looking to eat healthily, most people are going to wash their fruits and vegetables.
Yeah. That shows only an association. It does not prove that pesticides cause lung cancer.
Yeah.
And they recommend that people wash produce before eating and choose organic foods where available, where they don't use pesticides. This work represents critical steps towards identifying, and our hope is that these insights can guide both public health recommendations and all that. I know that Carla Nichols is a communications director for the Pesticide Action and Aerocology Network, a food distributing global network. He says the organization agrees with the study's conclusion that more research should be done on the rise of lung cancer, particularly in individuals eating diets higher in produce and fiber. There is a bounty of existing research that already links pesticides exposure to increased risk of multiple types of cancers. I mean, this is something it's with. She's a communications director, which I admire that that they're talking honesty. But she called for more research on chronic low-level exposures to pesticides, as well as more effective policies to protect the public from pesticide residue on food. Agree with all that. She agrees to do that, and this is preliminary. It's not.
So I would
completely
I guess
determined.
I would be curious what the take is on her organization. In other words, are they against pesticides? Are they for pesticides?
She's for pesticides. She thinks
sure?
more work. Well, she says more work needs to be done on how to make sure
that's
that
not an unreasonable conclusion to do more research.
Well,
Everybody wants more research.
And she says policies to protect from pesticide residue on food.
Right.
Like it's effective. It needs to be done. Just wash it off.
So that doesn't necessarily mean she's pro or against.
Well,
I mean,
she doesn't say.
What was the name of the organization?
Pesticide Action and Agroecology Network.
That sounds kind of anti-pesticide to me.
No, I got the impression she's not.
Well, we can find out.
Oh, I'll take a look at it.
And I'm not saying that. I mean, obviously, you have to be concerned about potential dangers, but there's a lot of potential dangers. So, just because something is new doesn't necessarily mean it's more of a danger than something else.
But some people get really over the top. I mean, look, there's some weed killers and some stuff out there that people work around 24 hours a day, or they're on farms. They do that, and they causes some adverse effects. That doesn't mean that once every 6 months you can't spray a little on your sidewalk.
When I look at the studies, it's really hard to come up with clear cases of cause and effect. It's mostly an associative thing, and a lot of times it's organizations that are known advocates one way or another that then come up with some research that just happens to agree with them. So
organizations like Roundup has had to pay millions of dollars, and
sure, and you have the
fines and stuff.
Glyphosate,
but they're still on the shelf.
Well, right, because they're extremely effective and useful,
right?
And the quote studies that show them to have harmful effects are not conclusive from what I've seen. So why destroy your ability to raise crops on one study out of 20 that says this is bad?
It's tough to pin it down, but they can on certain things, like DDT went off the market because
mostly on bad information. I mean, we probably lost millions of people because we made DDT not available for controlling mosquitoes and malaria in Africa. So we were willing to sacrifice millions of Africans because some people were worried about American eagles.
Millions of people died of
malaria.
Yeah, but that's the most dangerous insect. The most deadly insect is the mosquito.
Yes, exactly correct.
On the planet, it's not the snake. It's not the rattlesnake. It's
because of the diseases it transmits.
It's not even the rhino.
I mean, but it's hard to think of a mosquito as being that bad, but they are. And it's certain kinds of mosquitoes in certain areas. And it turns out that just a little bit of DDT is tremendously effective at repelling mosquitoes. So you spray a little bit of DDT around your hut and the doorway and stuff, and suddenly you're not getting malaria.
I don't think you can buy it anymore. It's not available anywhere, is it?
Oh, yeah. And they're starting to use it more in Africa again.
Are they again? Okay.
Yeah. So
my listener was listening, and one of the listeners listening said his wife was a farm worker in the early 1980s, was sprayed by a crop duster. That's very bad. The whole group was taken to the hospital except for my wife. A significant portion of the group died of cancer and other diseases. She has serious health issues. The local farmer was not held accountable. I guess it's hard to definitively say that's what caused the problem.
In the 1980s, so we're 40 years afterwards.
45, yeah.
And he's
40,
and he's saying maybe. She has health issues. So I don't know how old she was then. I don't know.
Well, and that's why it's hard to pin it down.
It is.
There's so many.
If you get a severe case of these pesticides, if you get them in very large amounts, it can definitely be harmful.
Right.
And so I don't know what had happened in this case particularly.
I don't.
But I know of some cases where they're talking about dioxide, which is not a pesticide, used for certain manufacturing processes. And they literally had a flood of this stuff in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't have thousands of people die off. Some people got rashes. And yet this has been claimed by some people that dioxide is the most deadly chemical ever invented by man. It's just bull. It's just nonsense. Just
Well,
not true.
But in this case, if you had a whole group of people and they all
And a
died
bunch
but one
went to
of
the
cancer,
hospital. Yeah, it indicates some serious problems.
some serious problems. And
So,
I wonder what happens where a crop duster would spray a group of people.
Well, you know, I wasn't there. I
Yeah,
don't know what's going
It's
on.
pretty dangerous stuff.
But one application like that is unlikely to give you. Maybe it was a particular kind of chemical. I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know.
I wouldn't volunteer for it.
We'd want to have a lot more detailed information
Yeah.
to figure out just what's going on.
Well,
Doesn't
that's
sound good.
that would be the whole problem with trying to litigate that thing is
Yeah, exactly.
trying to prove it.
It
Right.
is. It is.
I guarantee you it's not good.
Right.
I wouldn't want to be involved in it. I got a gun story here.
Oh, good.
A woman opens fire on a Maryland gas station clerk during an attempted robbery. I saw the pictures and she was a heavy-set woman and she had a revolver and started shooting. There was no audio in the deal. And the victim, serious condition at shock trauma. That she was robbing it.
Yeah, it's all on video.
Yeah, it's on video. Did you see it?
No, I read the
I saw it.
headline, but I didn't see it.
There was they're offering up to $2,500 for. The video is very clear and very good. I mean, the
So
picture
they
of this
did
lady,
not have a hard time identifying her.
they haven't found her yet, but
Oh.
there's rewards out there for $2,500. We should go in on that.
So does she
We'd
have?
have to go to Maryland though.
Do they have a name?
Nope, they don't know. They don't know anything.
Okay. Well,
She just-
but it's pretty good pictures, so somebody will
Yeah.
come up with something.
It doesn't look like she ran there. She was a heavy set woman,
Yeah.
angry looking.
Who knows what happened?
Don't know.
I mean, maybe audio.
It didn't happen in the middle of the night. It happened at 7:43 p.m. So it's still kind of busy.
Yeah, that's not. In a lot of places are open till 8.
Went into a Shell station, and then police got the call that there was a shooting. An adult male gas station employee was transported to the university, and who knows if it, what the case is. But to walk into a gas, I mean, everybody's got video. Everyone's got that anymore. I mean, man, I ran convenience stores back in the mid 80s and it was all video at that time. This is not new. Convenience stores are, they've got those kinds of security because they have those kinds of problems.
A lot of times this type of thing is very emotional. It's not a logical decision.
Yeah, there is no logic in it because this person I would guess was going to get caught.
I expect so.
Yeah.
If they've got
She may
images.
have lived a block away. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah. But to go there on camera, and it is a terrifying look. She's just starts opening fire at the.
Yeah. I would suspect it. I mean, if you're going to record this stuff, it makes sense to record audio as well as video.
Yeah.
Although surprisingly, audio takes about as much bandwidth as video.
I don't do audio. We have cameras everywhere.
But you don't have an audio input on the video feed, is what I'm hearing. But you do audio all the time on this podcast.
Oh, on this podcast I do, but I mean, but we do video at work. It's been very helpful. That thing has saved us before from stuff.
Yeah, but you don't record audio there?
I don't record audio.
Huh.
No, I don't want to know what Chris says during the day.
Okay.
I don't want to know. But it helps us a lot. I had my keys stolen once. I generally come in the morning and a lot of times I'll set my keys on the counter on Chris's desk right inside the door. I couldn't find my keys. I knew I brought them in. I knew I set them on the counter.
So you looked at the tape.
I said, well, let's go look at the tape. We actually saw the customer to pick them up and put them in his pocket.
Right.
I mean, he kind of looked around, picked up the keys, put them in his pocket, and then walked out the door.
Oof.
Well, he was a customer. We had his
his
phone number and all that stuff. I called him and I said, hey, this is Russ from Precision. I think oh yeah, I got your car keys. I picked them up by mistake.
Could have been.
Yeah, but he had his own car keys to start this car and he had mine, but I don't know. But we got him right back.
It's not impossible to make a mistake like that.
It's not. So we didn't say anything other than thanks. And I got the keys back. And then we had a car stolen out of the parking lot once.
Oh, that's
and it wasn't even a customer. It was somebody that dropped the car off in the middle of the night and put the key in the drop off box, which is great,
Oh,
and
okay.
put a note on the windshield wipers that they'll be back in the morning to
The
tell us what
keys.
they want done.
Okay.
So they never came in.
But somebody,
But in the next night, when the next day we came in, the car was gone.
okay.
So we figured they changed their mind. They came and picked it up.
Okay.
Well, then somebody came by and said, "Where's my car?" Like, I don't know.
Oh.
Where is it? We don't even know who you are. And they said, "Oh, the car. Oh, yeah, the one that we parked there. We assumed you picked it up. It left. Whatever." Now they wanted us to pay for it out of our insurance.
Oh.
Now we didn't even know the people's name or anything. They just dropped it off in the parking lot, which of course we're not liable for under anything. But we wanted to make them happy and explain to them that we don't take responsibility at all.
Yeah,
We weren't even a customer. Well, and I said, look, and then these two ladies came in afterwards. They didn't accept the answer because they were related to the person that owned the car, and they said they'd like to see the videotape.
Yeah. Okay.
So we sat down and opened up the videotape for them, and I was with them, and they go, "Oh no!" Apparently, it was another one of their family members that stole the car.
Yeah. Yeah.
They recognized my way and said, "Never mind,"
Okay.
and they left and took care of it themselves. Yeah.
Did the people who took the car had a separate set of keys?
No, I don't. Well, they might have, but they
didn't get the keys out of your establishment.
No, they didn't get there. They didn't get the keys from us. But they spent some time with the hood up, doing something on it to get the car to run.
Oh, okay.
And they I don't know if they hot wired it or what they did.
Sometimes you have a dispute about ownership, and
that was what this was. This was a dispute about ownership, and it was an heirloom from somebody.
Yeah, Grandpa said this was mine.
I know. That's what that was. That's what this thing was, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of details because they said never mind and took off.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll handle this.
Well,
it's
understandable.
They realized where the culprit was and what was going on.
Well, I mean, this shows the value of video, and I think it's partly why the crime rate, especially the murder rate, is dropping.
Right.
I mean, we have the lowest homicide rate, murder rate in the U.S. ever recorded.
Yeah. Well, it helps a lot, and you'll see that on movies and all that when the police have a problem, they look around to find out who's got video.
Well, now
private.
I think most police know where all the cameras is in their town because they make it their business to know because it's so helpful.
Oh, they've come knocked on our door and asked to see it.
Yeah.
They have something going on down the street. There was a shooting at the drinking establishment right up the street, a nice little bar or something, but somebody discharged a firearm in the parking lot. Nobody was hit. But the police were interested in finding out. And so they checked at 1:45 or whatever time it was.
Yeah, we're looking for this
happened.
kind of car.
And they got the license number off the video.
Yeah.
Our video is good enough for that. So if you're driving down Arizona, don't do anything wrong.
And they're getting better all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, the resolution is incredible. A lot more of them have audio feeds now. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I don't know how the audio would be very helpful for me. But
Well,
maybe.
I mean, I was analyzing a case where there was a shooting, and I was trying to figure out just what was going on. And it would have been so much easier if there was audio, because then I could have known just when the gun discharged in that case. And I didn't have it, but I mean, it still was interesting to try and figure out what's going on. But if you had audio, it would have been much more helpful.
Lister says your cohorts as a historian might remember Thomas Midgley. I remember him. He was the one that invented ethyl and for gasoline additive. Killed millions of people. That doesn't get produced a lot. Not a lot of people know about
I'm
that.
trying to think. Millions seems like a lot. So how's the connection he's making there? The logical connection with
It's estimated that it's caused millions. Oh, they took it off eventually, but you could absorb that through your skin even. You couldn't even handle it.
Maybe he's talking about people who would then siphon and get some.
No, it was airborne too after it's burned and everything. So it estimated that it cost millions of deaths over time. But you can't get ethyl anymore. Ethyl went out when 70s. I don't remember.
I haven't studied. I have to look at this. It sounds really interesting.
I watched a documentary once on it.
Okay.
There are documentaries out there, and I watched that documentary. But people that would be exposed to it just to absorption. Well, washing things off.
Were the
gas.
people that they're estimating had serious problems? So they work at gas stations or something else?
No. It was just people. And I think, if I remember right in the documentary, this guy, I think, to prove it was safe, drank some.
Oh, wow.
I'm
Well, it'd be
I'm
interesting.
searching my memory.
I'm
That
going to
thing
have
was
to
in-
look it up. Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, for ethyl. But
You know that I remember when they took lead out of gasoline.
yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of studies trying to show a correlation.
Well, maybe the ethyl is the lead. I don't
Maybe
know.
it could be.
But it
That might be
Thomas Midgley.
a name for the type of lead they put into the gasoline.
I don't remember, but it's been years ago that I watched that documentary. I was
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up.
I was just surprised by it, but yeah, they did away with that except in aircraft.
Right, because you can't. I think it's the lead. I think it's the lead additive they're talking about here.
Maybe.
Because in aircraft, that's what increases your what do they call it?
Well,
there's a name for how powerful your gasoline is. You get more power out of it if you have a higher. What's that number? That you measure the effectiveness. Are we just about out of time here?
Oh, I hope not. Oh my gosh, we are. I got more to say, but we're gonna go.
Very good.
It is 9:00. That means I have to go to work. Thanks so much, Dane.
You're welcome.
I'll be back tomorrow.